sound okay? I felt like I was going to get some feedback. Can you hear? No? How's that? It's quite echoey, isn't it? How's that? No, is that better? We're going to go for the third time like the hell. How's that one? Nobody's got their lights on, have they? Okay, we'll have to go with it and see if we can it will sort itself out. Before I start this evening, gentlemen, if you'd like to loosen your ties and take your jackets off, please do. I will swelter solo in my robes. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. As we begin this meeting, I'd like to invite everyone to take a deep breath and set aside any lingering distractions from today. We are here to tackle complex challenges, and while we may not always agree on every detail, we share a common commitment to respectful dialogue, to valuing diverse perspectives, and to turning challenges into opportunities. By working together constructively, we can build a stronger, more vibrant future for everyone we represent. I would also like to take a moment to offer, on behalf of the City of Exeter, our deepest condolences to the family of Anne Widdecombe, following her death earlier this month. There are no words for this tragedy, but our thoughts and prayers are with them during this difficult time. Thank you. Before we formally commence this evening's business, I would like to please remind all members of the following. Please ensure all mobile phones are on silent or turn them off during the meeting where possible. I ask that you remain focused on the topics being discussed and do not repeat points which have already been made. Please show respect to other councillors, avoid interrupting and respect the position of Lord Mayor. And please indicate if you wish to speak and I will then call you at the appropriate time. Please can members indicate any point of order which relates to an alleged breach of a standing order or statutory provision and specify which standing order or statutory provision they consider has been broken. These should be addressed to myself as chair of the meeting and I will then seek advice as necessary. Members should not ask or seek responses directly from officers. Any personal explanation must be confined to some part of a former speech which appears to have been misunderstood in the debate. And members are reminded that if they leave the chambers during consideration of an item, they will be unable to take part in the vote on their return. Please feel free to request a comfort break if needed, and we will adjourn at an appropriate time. And as always, for everyone present, please be aware that the proceedings are being recorded and streamed live online. I now move to our first agenda item, which relates to the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 16th of June 2026. I move the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 16th of June 2026 to be approved as a correct record by those who are in attendance. These start on page 7 of your pack. Agenda item 2. Declarations of interest. If any members have any disclosable pecuniary interests that relate to business on the agenda and have not already been included in the register of interests, I ask that you declare them before any discussion takes place on said item. Agenda item 3, exclusion of press and public. I can confirm that there are no part 2 items on this evening's agenda. I now move to agenda item 4 to advise you of some official communications. This past month I've attended many delightful community events such as the Exeter Symphony Orchestra concert where I had the pleasure of hearing the world premiere of Colin Dance's Symphonic Suite. The Symphony Orchestra also have a winter concert in November, which tickets are still available for. I also hosted the historic Lammas Fair celebrations, attended the fabulous Love St Thomas Festival, and judged the best dressed window for Topsham's Art Festival. It was the Jewellers, in case anybody's there having a look around. Lucy, my deputy, isn't here this evening. It is her son's graduation, so we will allow her to enjoy those celebrations. But among other things, this past month attended the Northcots production of Daphne and the Kerala Community Sports Day. I also said a happy retirement to Jonathan Greener, Dean of Exeter Cathedral, and a welcome to Stephen Wayne, the new interim Dean. Over the summer, there are lots of events happening. I have my coffee morning on the 25th of July and the 29th of August. And also on the 25th of July, I'm attending the Rifle Band's celebration of the Salamanca Band, which unfortunately has now sold out, I'm afraid. However, next Tuesday evening, there is a quiz in honour of my chosen charity at Brown's down by the quayside. If you would like to rally a team to come up against the Chain Gang, then we would love to see you there. I'm also have Lucy attending the Filipino Community Association Day and the Windrush Caribbean Cricket Match in August. And on the 30th of August, I'll be attending Topsham Charter Day. I've also received a letter of thanks this past month regarding our Armed Forces Day celebrations. I'm not going to read the letter out, but it is on the back table if members would like to have a look at it after the meeting. But I would like to take this moment to say a special thanks to Amara Roth, who I'm sure most of you know, for her incredible work and coordination and post-it note plans in making sure that everybody was in the right place at the right time and that the day and events went smoothly. I now move on to agenda item 5, which is opportunity for members of the public to submit questions, and I can confirm that we have no public questions submitted for this evening's meeting. Before I move on to the next item, committee minutes, Leader, I believe you would like to make a statement. I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, it's quite an important statement, I think, for this council, Lord Mayor. An important one after 50 years of being a second-tier council. We've consigned the memory of Radcliffe Ward to the bin, I hope. And the government's decision to implement our joint proposal with Plymouth for 4 unitary council is obviously an exciting and historic moment for Devon. Change of this magnitude will inevitably raise concerns with residents, partners and staff. Providing as much information as we can about how the process will unfold over the coming months is a priority for this council. I must thank, and we all mean this, on behalf of everybody, the Chief Executive and her team for the thoughtful and robust preparations they have been undertaking in getting the council ready for the months ahead. Thank you so much. Last night I chaired the LGR Oversight Group, and we learned about the comprehensive preparations to date and the plans being developed for key transition stages. The complexity of this process is not to be underestimated, and I am thankful that continued and constructive cross-party engagement and support, which was recognised in our original proposal. Authorised in Parliament and evident in the discussions at the Oversight Board last night. We discussed and we agreed to the suggestion to formally invite our scrutiny committees and our Audit and Governance Committee to provide supportive challenge and assurance on how the Council is performing its duty to ensure that effective running of existing Council services whilst enabling staff and other resources to be deployed to ensure a smooth transition to the successor council. It is critical for this council to end well and ensure that a successful vesting day for the new council representing Exeter and our surrounding areas and the rest of the council areas. So as I say, I thought it was important to make that statement and to recognise it, that we actually done it, and I feel, Lord Mayor, I don't know what to talk about now.
I'm sure you'll find something later, but thank you for your statement. So we now move on to the minutes of the various committees of the council which have been held since we last met. Can I take this moment to remind all members that the relevant chair or representative will present the minutes of their meeting on block and will then ask members if they have any questions to raise on matters which have been resolved. Again, can I ask members not to repeat questions that have already been answered at those committees or are awaiting an answer outside that committee? For any recommendations, there will be an opportunity for debate on those matters. If not, I will move to the next chair or representative to do the same. When it comes to executive, the leader will present the minutes one by one so that members and the public are aware of each item. There will be no debate for resolved matters, but members may ask questions on those items. Again, can I please ask that members do not repeat questions which have already been answered or waiting response for. Members will be able to debate any recommendations from executive to council, which will be followed by a vote. Can I please call on Councillor Cookson as Deputy Chair of Planning to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of June 2026. This is starting on page 21 of your packs.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to present the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting on the 1st of June 2026. I'm happy to take any questions.
I see no questions.
I wish to move the minutes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Ruppert as Chair of Strategic Scrutiny Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on 4th of June 2026. This is agenda item 7, starting on page 27 in your packs.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to present the minutes of the Strategic Scrutiny Committee were held on 4th of June 2026. And yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
I see no questions.
In that case, Lord Mayor, I so move.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Ruth Williams as Chair of Harbour Board to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on 11th of June 2026, starting page 37.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I present the minutes of Exeter Harbour Board meeting Thursday, the 11th of June. Happy to take any questions.
Just a brief question regarding page 40, section 11, paragraph 2. So I asked the question about the overspend that was included in the agenda, and the Harbour Master suggested that he would get back to me. He did get back to me during the meeting, after the meeting had finished. I think it might be best practice just for the reason for the overspend to be included as minuted, because it is a matter of public interest. So putting the question to you that his response is included in the minutes.
Thank you. I'm quite happy to agree to that. Any other questions? I move the minutes.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Fulham as Chair of Customer Focus Scrutiny Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held 18th of June 2026. This starts on page 41 of your packs.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I present the minutes of the Customer Focus Scrutiny Committee of the 18th of June. I have no questions.
Councillor?
Thank you. I asked a question during Customer Focus about the tree splashballs and ward councillors being kept up to date. I'm pleased to hear that work is underway and that the contractors are due on site next week. Could ward councillors please receive regular progress updates as we weren't aware of that work commencing before we made our own inquiries?
Thank you. In terms of the meeting, I think this is subsequent to that meeting. I'll expect the portfolio will be happy to provide regular updates on that, so I can speak on behalf of the portfolio.
Can I ask Councillor that you perhaps email the portfolio holder for that?
Thank you. Any further questions? In that case, I move, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Bialik as Chair of the Executive Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of June 2026. This starts on page 47 of your packs.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Minute 1, 2, 3, 4. Minute 5, Citizens Advice Exeter Brent.
Have questions? Councillor Mitchell first and then Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Could I congratulate the administration on this decision? It means I'm now going to find a new budget amendment to put forward next year to replace the one that we put forward for the last 2 years, which has been rejected. Does the leader believe that these two-year awards by us are sufficient to continue to make the CA sustainable in the near future until the new UA comes into position?
Would you like the next question? Yeah, same time. Councillor Darling, would you like to ask your question? And then Councillor Miller-Bowman will take them in threes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There may be some overlap of your answer to Councillor Mitchell's question, but my question is, why was a decision made to support Exeter CAB now, when we didn't make that decision in the past? And is this grant additional to the peppercorn rent? Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Two good questions. I'll deal with Councillor Darling's first. Of course, when we made the budget statement in February, we were going out to contract, and unfortunately, the Citizens of Ice Exeter was not successful in winning that other contract. So, which might have fitted in nicely. So we had to think hard, not too long. It is as all what we said in the report that we wanted it, and so we made the decision to recommend that funding. And at the last council meeting, we put the funding in for the next 2 years, and of course the executive approved the grant. So that was why that came about. And with regard to the future funding, if I can start the campaign for the Unitary Council, you vote Labour, I'll make sure that the Citizens of Ice Exeter gets full support. But I don't know who will be running it, Council.
Thank you. Councillor Miller-Bowman, do you have a question still?
Thank you, yeah. I really welcome this significant financial support, as others have done, given the valuable work they do in the city. Can reassurance be given that there'll be regular monitoring and reporting so the council can measure the impact this funding is delivering for Exeter residents? Thank you.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you very much. I welcome this grant, and just want to follow on from the question that's just been asked about monitoring and reporting, because Citizens of Ice provide councils with fantastic monthly updates on their work. And how does the leader think that we can use this information alongside council information to tackle the rising inequality in the city?
Thank you. So there's two questions about monitoring, and I totally agree. £75,000 each year is no mean amount. There's a lot of organisations would welcome that sort of money, and I think we have a duty to the ratepayer in Exeter to ensure that money is just not a little bit of guilt money that we feel we need to give to the citizens of Ice Exeter because it makes us all feel nice and warm and good inside. But with a lot of hardship going on, we want to know. And Councillor Moore is right, we do get those regular updates, and they are helpful. I think what I would suggest, and it's only a suggestion, that it may be an idea that one of the scrutiny committees actually look at a number of these reports at some stage and put it into the scrutiny. I mean, that's what scrutiny is there for, to ask the questions and perhaps invite the CAB along to answer some questions. That's what the role of scrutiny is. And as for anything determined about inequalities, of course, that's what we've got to be careful of, because there's still inequality in this city, just round the corner, literally speaking, if you know what I mean. And we have to make sure that what resources we're putting in to try to help this is used wisely and actually benefits people, and the people in Exeter can see that this is money worth spending.
Thank you. Any further questions on that item? I see no further.
Minute 6. Lord Mayor, parking places order. This is all right. What on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Councillor Harding?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm not sure if my question might be outside the remit at this point, but I'll ask it anyway. That I see there's a figure towards the bottom that's saying that the estimated income from this car is going to be 425,000. Yeah, the lease was only 55,000. And I just wondered whether this highlighted whether we had any more car parks we were leasing, whether we should be looking at those leases as they expire rather than just replacing them with another lease. Thank you.
Well, I think I'm right in saying we have nothing that we lease out at all. So everything is in the house. And the executive dealt with an issue last week which will come up as a resolved matter at the next council matter, and we don't intend to have any leased out. So that's no longer an issue, Councillor.
Councillor Pratt, did you still have a question? Yeah.
I take it we're on the parking places order. Yeah. Okay, so page 49 of that order notes that the Market Street car park and the Cathedral and Quay car park play vital roles in the city centre and our cultural offering. And as well that local businesses, residents and visitors might well value both being open beyond 8 p.m. So what I'd like to know is how will the council work with local stakeholders in the future to ensure that the opening hours reflect the city's needs?
Are there any more questions on that item before we answer this one? I see no more.
Right, thank you, Lord Mayor. I believe that if not here, we have determined that the Cathedral in Quay will stay open later now. I mean, that fits in nicely with what is some of the councillors have asked before. And with regard to Market Street, I think it still will stay open until then. And it all fits in with what we're doing. So, yeah, I'm happy. Stakeholders talk to us all the time. We consult the Chamber of Commerce on all of these things, so it's nothing new. And their main emphasis to us is about raising car parking prices, which, as you may not know, I didn't raise this year, Councillor.
Thank you. Next. No, any further questions on that item? No.
Item 7, corporate debt management policy. Here there's two recommendations here, which I move, Lord Mayor.
Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, that's you.
Seconded.
Thank you. The matter is now open for debate. I thought I'd missed a line in my question. Apologies. Councillor Bannion.
So the corporate debt policy uses the term enforcement agent. I get a lot of emails from residents who contact me consistently interpret as this meaning bailiffs, and I think there's a bit of ongoing confusion about the difference between an enforcement agent and a bailiff. And I'd like to know what steps the council might take to really distinguish these roles so that the public understand who is contacting them and why.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Moore?
Thank you very much. I welcome this policy. We have to balance the council bringing in the income that it expects and recover debt with treating people fairly and businesses fairly who are struggling to pay. So I welcome the comments about discussion with the voluntary community and social enterprise sector, feedback on the policy. Have there been any significant findings from that conversation to inform the policy? Are you suggesting any changes as a result of that? And the other question I would ask is the council going to be monitoring its engagement with the vulnerable individuals? The criteria is set out in the policy, and actually perhaps cross-referencing that data and the work that we have to do to manage and help people with debt, recover debt, with what the work of the Citizens Advice Bureau is doing as they support people who are dealing with debt.
Do any other members wish to speak on this item? I see no further hands, Leader.
Thank you. Yeah, this was this policy was discussed or raised at a previous council meeting, and there were some concerns raised by a number of councillors with regard to bailiffs and how we recover. And I've got to be honest, I won't say it shook me, it took me back. The talk was that somehow we've got an army of bailiffs going out and people knocking on people's doors, raiding people's homes for debts that they may owe the council. And that is not the case, happily, because when you look at some of our debt recovery in any event, which is basically we work through people, particularly on housing rates, if you look at the collection rate, high. You know, I mean, if the collection rate was 80%, we would have a major problem. You know, we would have a big problem with our budget. But I mean, we're in the late 90s, and that's all good. So that tells me we're collecting our finances anyway. But as you know, there's always a situation arises for people in times like this, whereby they can't manage the debt. Now, I do know that our council team are very proactive in discussing this with the people, making sure that they are doing it. And we are doing that. So I don't think there is such a big problem. So I'm quite debate.
I would like to understand 10E, please,
In relation to,
I'm trying to forward in terms of a personal statement about what I said at previous meetings.
okay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Sorry. Thank you, Leader. I just really want to clarify that at previous meetings I have asked about bailiffs. I've asked factual questions about the council's use of bailiffs and the rates of bailiffs. And I think it would not be helpful for people to think that the council is sending out an army of bailiffs or any such rhetoric. The issue of debt needs to be managed carefully, and so I just really want to be really clear. I've asked factual questions so we can all understand, and I'm happy to forward the reply that I got, which is really helpful from the finance team about that response.
Well, if Councillor Moore is going to send that response out, that will save me going on any further about it. And I was certainly not having a personal thing, and I'm sorry if Councillor Moore took it that way. I was just trying to explain. I've looked into this and I've tried to understand if there was a problem, and I believed there wasn't to that degree, and I feel sure enforcement, and we do have enforcement is not bailiffs from what I understand, but there comes a time in my portfolio with some of the debt, and we've got a new team in there now. I've had this, that we are more staff now in there dealing with recovering outstanding money owed to this council. And you know, I have to write off these things, and we see it in some of the monitoring reports. Debt that's written off, and it's coming across my desk. 2013, 2015, how did this go on? You know, and we're looking at all of that now. We're keeping up there. Debt that's been going on for 12 months. Business, well, hang on a minute, you wouldn't be allowed to go 12 months with your mortgage before the mortgage company says something to you. So we are stepping up on all of that, making sure people pay what they owe us, and we shouldn't be ashamed of asking people to pay the council what they owe us. And so that's what we're doing. So the team is getting much better on all of that, Lord Mayor. So I don't think we are resorting to bailiffs or indeed enforcement. We have to take action sometimes. Otherwise, we just say to people, pay. We can't say that easy. It's very important that we begin. So those are the two recommendations which I hope we can all support, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So I will read them out for purposes of those watching online, and so that everybody is clear about what they are voting on. The recommendation is that the council approve the revised corporate debt management policy, and that the council delegates authority to the leader, section 151 officer and portfolio holder to agree amendments to the policy after targeted engagements with the voluntary, community and social enterprise sector. I now move to the vote. Can I ask all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That has been passed.
Item 8, Lord Mayor, is the corporate plan annual progress report. This is a resolved matter, and just to say, in moving it, I think this is the first time that we've actually updated, well, when I say updated, progress. We've talked about the corporate plan in the past, you know, nice document, glossy front cover, and then we stick it on the shelf. And this is something that we try to measure what we're doing, and we're going to have at least a 6-monthly progress report. I'll come back to the executive and in turn to council to make sure on those key objectives that we've set out as our corporate plan is that we're trying to follow. Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Are there any questions on that last item 8 from the executive minutes?
Those are the minutes I'd like to know, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is agenda item 11, which starts on page 55 of your packs and relates to the Cathedral Quay and multi-storey car park. Leader?
Lord Mayor, there is one recommendation for us to approve a budget of 2.5 million for the undertaking of the refurbishment and upgrade works at the Cathedral Quay car park through additional borrowing. I'd like Dave Hodgson and his team to talk us through the paper.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And can I introduce Ben Coleman, Head of Service for Commercial Assets, who's going to answer any difficult questions that you may have later. So following on from the last two executives, where the executive have taken a number of decisions around Cathedral Quay car park, those are to consult on a change to pay on foot from pay and display, to consult on moving the car park from zone 2 to zone 1, and also to introduce charging from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Those will all form part of the parking places order, which will be consulted on over the next couple of months. This is, and then also the executive decision to increase the staffing in-house to provide a properly staffed car park 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. Each day. Following on from those decisions, this report looks solely at the capital investment required to enhance and improve the car park and bring it back into full operation. So, Council's being asked to approve a budget of £2.5 million to undertake works to both improve the car park, not just internally, the floors, and bring those back into operation, but also the external look. And this extends to the pathways in and around, and will also include improved lighting in those areas as well as within the car park itself. Members have seen this report previously in a different guise. The only section I wish to draw to your attention is section 10.2 on page 57, which talks about the additional income that will be generated. So currently, the car park is operating on about 20% occupancy, because not only is half of it closed, but it's also not a particularly appealing place to park your car at the moment. So that generates around £309,000 a year. With the improvements that we're proposing, a conservative estimate of an increase 30%, so 50% occupancy, will generate an additional £475,000 a year, which I'm pleased to say will more than cover the costs of borrowing the money and also the cost of the additional staff to ensure it remains in a decent position. So, more than cost neutral, slight surplus from it. Members may also be interested in the potential increase in income from the two proposals put to the executive last week. It's expected that the increased charging till 10 p.m. and the move to zone 1 will generate between 100 and 150,000 additional income. That's not included in this report because this report was published prior to the decision being taken last week, and in any case, it has to go to consultation. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'm now looking for questions for clarification from members before we move to the debate. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Dave. I just want to clarify exactly what staff, if you could just help me understand. Are we talking about cleaning staff? Are we talking about security staff? Are we talking about parking attendants? What kind of staff? Thank you.
Any more questions? Councillor Moore?
Thank you very much, Dave. The question I have, you mentioned about pathways around the car park. I would like to know if the cycle path between the underpass, but not the underpass, and if the cycle bridge that goes over the entrance underneath into the car park will be straightened out so that it doesn't cause blockages and is a danger to cyclists in the winter when it floods. Thank you.
Councillor Reid?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a question for page 57, paragraph 1, around the landscaping and public realm with the additional lighting. All of that sounds absolutely fine, but I think there's probably an interesting opportunity here in terms of also enhancing the biodiversity in this space. So I was wondering what provision and expectation might we have for, in terms of taking on this work, enable biodiversity to come into our city and for Exeter to be nature positive. Thank you.
Are you okay to take those questions first? Thank you.
So thank you. Councillor Hughes, in terms of the 6 staff that were taken on, they will be parking staff. Because it's hopefully going to change from a pay display to pay on foot, they're not particularly enforcement staff. They're there to support people who are parking in there and to ensure it's safe and secure. So we're seeking staff with a security accreditation to help to sort out the antisocial behaviour that we have there. In terms of cleaning, we're working closely with the cleansing team who car parks pay to ensure that it's maintained and cleaned, although they will undertake some low-level cleaning and graffiti removal if necessary. Councillor Moore, we will certainly look at whether the cycle path and the cycle bridge are part of the proposal as it currently stands, and whether there's sufficient budget, if not, for us to do something about that. And in terms of landscaping, that's very much part of the project. So we're absolutely working with the Parks and Open Spaces team on proper landscaping around the Cathedral and Quay car park, something that's manageable for them, which is why we're working with them, but also that hopefully does improve biodiversity in that area.
Thank you. I now have Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm just wondering whether the budget has been allocated allows for the installation of solar panels on the roof of the car park, or is there the potential for solar panels from Marriott?
Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Apologies if I've missed this in here, but does that with the cost include the repairs to the lift? Thanks.
Are there any further questions? No, just those two. Thank you.
Thank you. So in respect of the installation of solar panels, we have looked a number of times at solar panels at Cathedral and Quay. Because of the design of the car park, the net zero team said it was too high risk because you can access the car park at the point, as opposed to Mary Arches and John Lewis and soon to be Guildhall, where you can't access where the solar panels are. So no, it's not included at this moment in time, but our net zero team consistently assess the viability and potential for any additional solar. However, I can confirm that the lift is absolutely part of the project and very much an important part to be brought back into use.
And one last call for any further questions before we move to the debate. Okay, thank you. I now move to open the debate. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Dave, for that. I'm so delighted to hear the thought and consideration that's gone into security. That is a notoriously unpleasant place to walk in the daytime, let alone in the evening. So I just wanted to say thank you, really, for the consideration that's been put in place. And I think having 6 members of staff who will be able to be on hand as extra eyes and cleaning the place up, it's going to make that whole area a much more pleasant place to be. And yeah, it's a very easy win from my perspective. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Councillor Ruth Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I fully support this proposal as the lead councillor responsible for waterways. I know that how disappointing it is to have to use this particular car park, and it does give me concern that visitors to Exeter sometimes have this as their first impression, which is not good. So it's absolutely vital that we spend the money to make this a truly iconic car park, because the views that you'll be able to get across Exeter, across the quay, up to the cathedral, it's also in a strategic position right between the cathedral and the quay, and it can bring those two parts of Exeter together. So I think it's a huge opportunity for us to get this car park to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yes, I very much welcome this decision, assuming that we do all vote for it. I've had a resident in Exeter who's very keen to use this car park, but because of accessibility issues due to the lack of lift hasn't been able to, and that obviously applies to lots of residents. So yes, I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Councillor Banyard.
Yes, and David's council has really welcomed this plan to bring back the car park into full use. It has been a dangerous blight and magnet for antisocial behaviour. I won't repeat that. We're really pleased to see the commitment to using in-house staff rather than outsourcing. I know outsourcing wasn't the word used, but keeping these roles within the council I think means better standards for our workers and staff, and it will encourage staff to have a real stake in the future of Exeter. So we're really pleased about that. Yeah, we're delighted that it's going to be returned to a safe and usable state. So thank you.
Councillor Moore. Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I would just like to also have my pleasure that this scheme is going to take place. There's huge support down on the quay, not just by the traders, but by also the other activities that will now hopefully attract more footfall, the farmers market, the jazz on the quay, the Shanty Festival. That should be able to attract a wider audience. Hopefully the car park will then always be full, Dave, and you'll get your money back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I just wanted to make sort of a note of the fact that a lot of young people have been congregating in the car park for some time. And I just want to join Labour's MP Steve Grace in welcoming the government's Labour Youth guarantee of £820 million investment to deliver youth hubs and other facilities for young people. Thanks very much.
Any further members wishing to speak? Leader, do you wish to say
Yes, thank you. Of course, this report deals with the 2.5 billion for the enhancements and for upgrading of the place. And part 10.1 of the report is worth just a reminder and a read, because it tells us all about those antisocial things, why we're doing it, and the benefit from it. The number of questions about, because the minutes of the executive that was held last week will come to the next council meeting, and so a number of these points in relation to the management of it was dealt with in the resolved matter in the question. But it was obvious that, you know, people were going to express it. So, yeah, in that way. So, just to say, this is about the 2.5 million that we need to set aside. I think it's quite right about lifts. Because I do use the stairs because I'm a little bit frightened of getting stuck in one of them. And generally, people who travel with me are also frightened to be stuck in a lift with me as well. So I think it's important that these upgrades are done, and it is an attractive place for people to come to. Just to remember about the changes, we're going for the changes order, which is part of last week. But just to say, we are not going to be introducing the upgrading of the charges until it's all been completed, okay? So we're not trying to grab money off the people beforehand, that's made clear, and last week, which is very important. So I hope people can support the recommendations, Lord Mayor.
Before you sit down, never mind. Could you officially move the recommendation on page 55, please?
But I move the recommendation, Lord Mayor.
Seconded.
Thank you. And again, for the benefit of those at home, I will read out the recommendation that we are about to vote on. It is recommended that Council approves the 2.5 million capital budget for undertaking the refurbishment and upgrade works at Cathedral and Quay multi-storey car park funded through additional borrowing. I now move to the vote. Can I see all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That was unanimous and has been moved. Thank you. We now move to agenda item 12, notices of motion. As members will be aware, the monitoring officer has granted dispensation to employees of the University of Exeter and the Royal Devon University Hospitals Trust in accordance with section 33 of the Localism Act 2011 to take part in the debate and to vote on items 12 and 13. Those members to whom the dispensation applies must state the nature of their interest prior to speaking on each item. I remind members that they must approach the motions under debate with an open mind and impartially consider the issues raised, and would like to confirm that all members have seen the information from the Vice-Chancellor and President of the University that was sent out on Friday. If anybody doesn't, we do have copies available. Please let me know now before we begin. Okay. A notice of motion has been received from Councillor Mitchell in accordance with Standing Order 6, details of which are set out in the summons. Councillor Mitchell, can I ask you to please read your notice of motion?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The notice of motion by Councillor Michael as well as Standing Order number 6. Planned redundancy to the Royal Devon University NHS Hospital Foundation Trust and Exeter University. I should also draw attention to my own declaration of interest at Devon County Council here, that I sit on the board of governors representing Devon County Council, that carries no executive function, is not involved in this process. The Council, on behalf of the citizens of Exeter, are concerned about the recent decisions of the Royal Devon University NHS Foundation Trust and Exeter University to each embark on a staff redundancy programme to stabilise their financial positions. Both the NHS Foundation Trust and University play a key role in the city as employers, service providers, and institutions that have made Exeter a centre of excellence in both their respective fields. Council is concerned about the wider implications to the city and residents of proposed cuts by both bodies. Council resolves to seek appropriation with the university and hospital trust with regard to the proposed cuts to departments and the impact on the services they provide to the wider community, and request that the leader ask both organisations participate in a meaningful consultation process and listen to the views of staff and other key stakeholders such as students and health service partners. I so move that. Councillor Palmer will be seconding that.
A seconder?
I'm seconding.
Thank you. And Councillor Palmer, would you wish to speak now or reserve your right to speak until later?
I'd like to speak now, if that's okay. Oh, do you want to speak
Yes,
now? You go first.
Sorry. I know it's only ladies first, but if on this occasion, the proposer could go first. The aim of this motion is to set out to express our concern as a council that these two important bodies within Exeter are having to engage in the process of staff redundancies. Whilst the numbers involved may be small, 150 each, in relation to the total sizes of their workforces, which are multi-thousands, for those involved, it is deeply individual or family issues of the gravest concern. This motion is not about trying to score political points or to apportion blame. It is about communicating to those partners of Exeter City Council our concerns and asking for an understanding of the impact, if any, these changes will have on the relationship with the wider community of Exeter that both these bodies currently provide. It is not up to us to interfere with the due legal process relating to redundancy, or to have some, as others have, shout out the views on the rights or wrongs of the partners' business plans. We wish both bodies, if possible, to go beyond the legal requirements and listen to the views of the wider community and other stakeholders. I hope both partners and the council will find this motion supportive and not negative. I hope that we can all support the views taken in this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. So I'm going to wear a couple of hats, actually, as I go to this. It's not very long. I'm going to pop my HR hat on for a minute, if that's okay. And just kind of before we go into this debate, I just want to kind of think about the fact that this touches on the lives of real people. And before we begin, I would just ask that we just pause and remember that this is about our neighbours, our colleagues, our friends. There are some of us here this evening, I think, who may also be directly impacted by some of the proposed changes. It's about people who might be facing consultation, people who will be really anxious about their futures, students who are worried about their courses, and professionals that might be carrying out some of these consultations, who are doing their very best in difficult circumstances. They're all people who contribute every day to the life of our city, and so they deserve our compassion and respect. And I think, as Councillor Mitchell has said, this motion really isn't about political point scoring. So I'm going to ask that we keep our focus in the debate on facts, that we avoid rumour, and that we remember that consultation and redundancy are legal processes. It's unhelpful to speculate, and it can be seen as prejudice or predetermining the outcome of current or future consultations. So as a ward councillor now for the main campus, you can imagine my inbox has been pretty full of messages. I'm sure many of yours have been too. And they've come from residents, students, academics, but also from NHS staff as well, more broadly. And they're all worried about what these proposals could mean for them, but also for Exeter more broadly as well. So this motion is about standing with residents. It's about ensuring that the council asks the right questions about the impact of those cuts at both institutions, so the Royal Devon University NHS Foundation Trust and the University of Exeter. Now, as ward councillors, we obviously want to represent our residents, so we've already written to the university. We're urging them to have that meaningful consultation. It's one that includes affected staff, wider staff, students, and it's one that genuinely considers alternative options to those that are currently proposed. Now, I also just want to address my own broader concerns around the proposed loss of some of the arts and humanities courses. I know that's the detail of many of the emails that I've received. And Exeter's cultural identity, from our UNESCO City of Literature status to our rich kind of historical heritage, is really intertwined with the university.
We've got wonderful courses like the MA in Magic and Occult Science, for example, and that really demonstrates the innovation and diversity that makes Exeter quite unique. Our heritage sites are woven into the fabric of our community. The university enriches this through its research, its teaching, and through the diverse range of people it brings here. Arts and humanities aren't optional extras. They build critical thinking, empathy, and adaptability. They're skills that should not be reserved for those with privilege, but recognised as essential for social mobility and for our future workforce. So STEM and humanities shouldn't be in competition, they're partners. Technology needs context, it needs ethics and human insight, and innovation thrives when creativity and technology work together. Technology without their ethics is dangerous, and creativity without innovation is limited. But together, they build a future that's both advanced and humane. Now, I'd hope that we all want to ensure that Exeter remains a city where knowledge, creativity, and opportunity thrives. A city that values innovation and imagination, science and the humanities, progress and people. And the decisions that are made by these institutions do go far beyond their own walls. And so it is right that we should be able to scrutinise those impacts, but with care, compassion, and seeking clarity. So I would ask that you support the motion this evening. We're calling for that meaningful consultation. We're standing with those individuals who are being directly impacted by these proposed changes. And we're valuing every discipline, from medicine to magic. So I think we should safeguard the future of our city, the people that live, work, and study here. And it's only by doing that that we're going to protect the Exeter that I think we're all very proud of today, and we build the Exeter that we want to be for tomorrow.
Thank you, Councillor. The motion is now open for debate. Any members wish to speak? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Palmer, for being really clear in your speech. It's been quite difficult to understand colleagues this evening, and your speech was really clear, it was well enunciated, and I feel like I really understand what you were trying to say, so thank you for that. Those of us who educate children rather than adults in higher education, we are used to hearing the phrase, you can't be what you can't see. And so I am fully in support of this motion because I believe that it encompasses that phrase. We need the children of Exeter to be able to see what is possible. And if we decimate humanities in the way that is proposed, and I realise that's my word, decimate, just to be clear, if we reduce humanities in the way that is proposed, then I fear that our children in Exeter will not be able to see the humanities as a viable option for them in their higher education, or even just, as Councillor Palmer says, critical thinking and all those other vital skills that you can't learn from AI.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Finlay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I support seeking appropriate communication with the university concerning the wider impacts of these cuts. As a new portfolio holder for culture and city centre, several key stakeholders have approached me concerned with potential disproportionate impacts to the cuts to the humanities, arts and the social sciences with regards to the city's culture and vibrant and civic life. I would urge in our communications, if this motion passes, that we urge the university to take into consideration its own 2021 Civic University Agreement, which we were partners in, and this states, partnerships within our city are now more important than ever as we seek a thriving yet sustainable economy, healthy, happy people, a vibrant culture, and spirit that connects us all with the pride of place and determination to keep moving forward together.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Finlay has said quite a lot of what I would have said. What I would say with regard to this motion is that it doesn't specifically
relate to cutting humanities. It's not what the motion says. It is about the cutting staff numbers and the appropriate processes within that, but urging the university to reach out to beyond what it's legally required to do and to talk to stakeholders and to talk to the wider community, which I think is really important. I know the university, like all our key institutions, wishes to be a key integral part of the city. So talking to the city as a whole when you're making changes like this is important. But I do recognise, as with ourselves, when we make difficult decisions, they aren't reached quickly, they aren't reached without deep soul searching. So I do recognise that the university would not have gone down this road without having really explored it. So I'm in support of this motion, but I do recognise that it's important that we acknowledge that the university is not acting in haste, that this will have been a considered decision. But it would be good if they reached out to the wider community of the city in addition to their legal minimum consultations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I now have Councillor Jobson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Whilst I agree with many of the sentiments expressed during this debate, I'm not supporting the motion because I think it smacks of exactly what Councillor Mitchell said, is interference with the running of the university. It is of considerable concern that the plans came out in the press and media in the way that they did. It caused, I have no doubt, having experienced my late husband going through 3 sets of redundancies, I can just imagine the fear that that would instill in people who felt that they might be at risk. The media reports were that humanities were going to be decimated, to use Councillor Hughes's word. The university assure us that that is not so. They assure us that no decisions have yet been finally made. And I am confident that the university will use proper HR resources, not just a minimum that are required, but will, if they decide that there are those who have to be made redundant and it's not a voluntary arrangement, will get the proper help and assistance that they need. And that is the reason I do support a lot of the sentiments, but the university must be allowed to manage its own affairs without interference from the council. And I hope that they will continue to reach out to us so that we are aware and we can help our poor constituents where necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Cookson now.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. I should declare that I work for the NHS, but not at the Royal Devon University Hospital. So the views I express today are my own, but they are informed with my professional experience and my MBA research at the University of Plymouth, supervised by Dr. Sarah Creedy. My research explored leadership communication during voluntary redundancy programs within the NHS. One of the clearest findings from both the academic literature and my primary research of interviews with affected staff is that staff can accept difficult decisions. What they struggle to accept is uncertainty. When leaders fail to explain where an organisation is heading after voluntary redundancies, anxiety grows, confidence declines, and rooms inevitably fill the gap. That is why I support this motion. It is entirely right that we hold leaders to account on behalf of our residents, seek greater clarity about the future of these vital public services, and ensure that staff and the communities they serve are treated with openness and honesty.
Thank you, Councillor. I now have Councillor Fulham.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I support the sentiments, particularly about how this is affecting staff and the way it's come through. I have concerns in the wider issue of education. I think Universities Exeter, about 15 years ago, an injection of cash for the tuition fee system was brought in, but that was frozen for 9 years. So inflation was wearing that away over a period of time, and there's recently been changes. So I think university funding system has been suboptimal, to say the least, in where to bring us to this point. And it looks like it's a bit of ad hoc, sort of, the budget squeeze, let's see where we can slice out sort of services. And I think that's a very sensible way to go about things and creates the distress that we're trying to address and mitigate here in this motion today. But I think we need to be mindful of education as a whole, and as opinion formers and with political positions, we need to be mindful of the wider challenges, and I'd just like to highlight some of them as a bit of context, because we need to ask ourselves as a society which way we're going forward with this. Currently, we have graduate unemployment in this country of 6%, have come through the system and are currently unemployed. According to the Centre for Social Justice, 37% of graduates in this country are underemployed, are not utilising their education gained skills in the career they're engaged with. Apparently, there are 140 applications per vacancy, which is a massive ratio. And on top of that, generally speaking, the population of 1 million 18 to 24-year-olds who are not in education, employment or training. So university as a system is failing a lot of people. I'm not saying the university system is the reason why they're in that situation. There's many reasons. But there's 1 million people in that situation who are not engaged in the economy and whose futures are jeopardised. So we have to ask ourselves how we can look at the further education system to improve that. Bear in mind, the education system is based on a loan system, of which half is currently coming from the taxpayer, basically repaid by loans, and of course half of those loans will be repaid. And for those who do repay it, there's a 7% marginal tax rate, which could make a lot of people make a decision not to engage in further work later in their careers because the effort isn't worth the money they're actually getting charged for. So these are the background issues. On top of that, we've got the issue with foreign students coming abroad, and foreign students, this country buys a lot of stuff from abroad, buys energy from abroad, but what we sell is education. There's a lot of people from different countries will send their children here because of the highly regarded education system we have. And it's disappointing and distressing to see that there's a 16% drop since between 22 and 25 in foreign students coming to this country. And I do fear, and I will say it, that some of the xenophobic rhetoric going on and the portrayal of what foreign students are here for is undermining that and undermines the viability of our education sector.
Councillor, can I ask that your points relate to the motion that is being debated?
And the final point I'll make, Lord Mayor, is that 75% of employers struggle to fill vacancies in this country. There's 140,000 shortage of construction. Adult social care has many vacancies, digital technology, engineering, manufacturing, and there's 52 listed professions for temporary visas abroad that we're looking for people abroad to fill, skilled positions at high level. So I think the important thing with the education system, the university, and it's really important in this context, is that the university needs to deliver people who can deliver the skills and that are applicable to the university to provide our functioning economy, which is going to mean the cost of living comes down because services are delivered, which means our economy functions. So it really is really important to respect individuals, and referring directly to the motion, we need to have conversations, but we also, as a wider issue, need to look at our overall education sector and say, are we giving people the best opportunities, or are we educating a lot of people for jobs that don't exist and bypassing a lot of professions where skills are needed but we're not providing them? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Atkinson, please ensure your points refer to the motion being debated. That goes to all members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I'll try and keep it brief. I broadly support this motion, and as Councillor Mitchell has said, there is a legal process, Trade Union Labour Relations Act, Consolidation Act 1982, which sets a framework out for consultation. And as part of the consultation, it means meaningful discussion about the ways to avoid or reduce redundancy and ways to reduce the impact of redundancy on effective employees. And it also says that there should be collective consultation. They should consult with recognised trade union. And that is the one element that's missing from this motion. There is a recognised trade union at the university, UCU, and I'm pleased to say that the UCU are the people who can hold those meaningful discussions, can hold the employers to a point on behalf of their members, and they're already doing so. They've instigated a trade support, and so I question why the trade union, supporting the trade union, is missing from this motion. I didn't see it there. It's just said key stakeholders. It didn't mention the recognised trade unions. And there are recognised trade unions at the RDLE as well. And I just want to emphasise the point, every member on this side of the bench is a member of a trade union, and that is because we believe in the trade union movement is the people who represent employees against employers in situations like this. And I would urge every member of this chamber to join the trade union and sign up to that very important relationship going forward. And I would suggest that your motion is amended to include, we welcome the support of UCU in progressing this.
Councillors, are you suggesting an amendment to the motion? Councillor, are you suggesting an amendment?
Well, I'm asking first of all if Councillor Mitchell was to make it clear that the key stakeholders are the recognised trade unions.
So I tried to cover that expression when we talked about the due process being followed, in that there are regulations made in my speech, there are official bodies that have to be consulted. My concern is we do not need to get integral to the process that they have legally to follow. All we're saying as a community is we'd like the widest possible consultation beyond what you've legally got to do. And to me, they legally have to involve their unions or their professional associations. That is separate from the issue we are talking about, representing the community of Exeter. So it is implicit there, and I totally agree, but it is implicit within the requirements of the law at the moment.
If I may, I would then like to move an amendment to say, in the second part of it, organisations, listen to the views of staff and the recognised trade unions. So, add recognised trade unions after staff.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Watt. If we just clarify the amendment being presented, you don't wish to accept that as
At the moment, the expression used the views of staff and other key stakeholders. I'm quite happy for trade unions to be actually physically identified within that, if that would satisfy Councillor Atkins and Councillor Moore. Yeah.
So, Liz, did you get that? Can we just read it back and then that confirmation from Councillor Mitchell and Councillor Palmer, they accept it, or was it Josie taking it down? Oh, you haven't got my phone. So I think it's the council resolves to requests that the leader asks that both organisations participate in a meaningful consultation process and listen to the views of staff, trade, and recognised trade unions and other key stakeholders such as students and health service partners.
Yes.
Yeah? Do you accept that as a proposer?
I'm happy to accept the word. If I look like Councillor Palmer, who works in this field, I think might have a little point of clarification.
No.
Is that so? Just word, I don't want to do anything that in a way impugns the process that is being undertaken.
1 moment, sorry. Your Councillor Palmer's work in the sector is not relevant to the motion. However, I just need to know if you and Councillor Palmer as the seconder accept that to now become the substantive motion or not. Okay, so we will continue with the debate because that's been accepted by the proposer and seconder. Is everybody still with me, or does anyone need me to clarify? No, so we are adding in those words to the motion. Thank you. Then next I have on my list Councillor Baker to speak.
I broadly support this motion. feel that we should be looking holistically, to some extent, at why the university and the RD&E have made these decisions. We're finding a reduction in the number of international students, and so it's more important than ever for us as a council to ensure that all international people coming to our city feel safe here. And I think that we should, support the university in supporting people, as many international students to come here and thus not reduce their numbers and create these kind of financial crises.
Thank you. Councillor Darling, did you have a point of clarification, or did you want to be added to the list?
It was a very small matter of a comma. We have listened to the views of staff, comma, recognise trade unions and other key stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I now have Councillor Reid.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. And just to echo what most of this room has said already, really, is that I broadly support this motion. And I think it completely transcends politics when it comes to supporting the people of Exeter. And if it's okay, I'd like to share a very, very brief personal story which does relate to the motion. I didn't go to school. I was taught at home by my parents. I don't have any GCSEs. I don't have any A-levels. And at the age of 19, when I thought, holy heck, I think I might like to go to university, I wasn't accepted by anybody. And it was only through begging and pleading that I was able to go to the University of Gloucestershire on a foundation degree, and then topped that up to a full BSc, and then eventually did a PhD at the University of Edinburgh. So without the university sector, I certainly wouldn't be standing here today. I certainly wouldn't have the critical thinking that I bring to this room. So I've also received 2 emails from residents in St Thomas asking for me to vote for this motion, and I absolutely will do. They've also asked me to vote for the next motion, which I absolutely will do, because for me, this is about putting those people first, and that's what I intend to do this evening. So just to sum up, I'm going to support this motion. I'm here speaking as an ex-employee of the university. I hold associate status, but I do not receive any financial compensation for that role. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have Councillor Kevin Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. And firstly, following the advice of the monitoring officer, I would like to declare my interest openly as an employee of the Royal Devon University Hospital. I have been given dispensation to speak. So my purpose for standing was to try and hopefully reassure Councillor Johnson in terms of the comments that you quite rightly made. Because when I look at this motion and the way we tried to word it was very careful that we weren't actually telling the university what they should or shouldn't be doing. All we were doing was basically saying that we're aware you're following your legal requirements. However, we feel that maybe you could go slightly further in the sense of bringing into that other stakeholders, such as the local community, and in terms of the RDUH, in terms of their individuals that use those services. So we're not saying you must listen, we're just giving them guidance, but please can you take that into account? And this isn't an aggressive motion at all. We have a civic agreement with the university and the hospital, and therefore it is our role to be partners with them and to raise issues when things like this come forward. So hopefully that reassures you of the ethos of this motion.
Thank you. I have Councillor Harding.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. When there's significant events happening in the city, such as this, I think people often say, what are the council doing about this? So I think this motion is good because it says here that we want to make sure staff are properly listened to. So I think by doing that, we're showing solidarity with the staff of both these organisations. So I think that's a positive thing the council can do. So yes, I would support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bialik.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I think it makes sense to support the motion, and as it is now being accepted, amended. I've often said, for those who want to listen to me on some stuff, I mean, Nissan, for example, is Sunderland is the company town of Nissan. And if there were redundancies in Nissan, that council, that community would be very concerned. Why? Not just because it makes cars, but because it is a major employer and it has a major influence on the economy of that town. So it is important that we have a voice and we can express our view about stuff. Now, the thing is, we've had a bit of education here in relation to the 1982 Act, and also Councillor Palmer will know all about the ETO, which a company can bring forward, which is an economic, technical, or organisational reason for bringing about an end of contract. And that's what there's a role that they have to consult in a meaningful way. My experience, Lord Mayor, of meaningful when I was doing union negotiations, everything I said in the negotiations were meaningful, and they would be meaningful if they agreed with me. However, their meaningful view of it was what they said, and I should agree with them. And so meaningful, is it meaningful? I don't know, it's a matter of interpretation. But there is a process, and I would like to think that they go through that process. With regard to the UCU, it's not just the UCU, because I'm not so sure what other staff positions come under redundancies, whether that affects the GMB or the Unite Union, in other words, manual operations. Those manual grades, sometimes they are equally important, because without those people, that university is not going to work. Now, we've often, Lord Mayor, talked about how important the university is here for us. I've often said it, and it is important to us. So I do believe we are entitled. We are entitled to have a conversation. We've got a civic partnership, and Councillor Finlay sort of quite reminded me of the agreement I had signed back then, saying all of those nice words. And we do have regular meetings, and I think it's appropriate. And I did discuss this with the Chief Executive, and I know we reached out already, hence that email came back explaining the situation, because we need a little bit of understanding of their position. Now, I feel sure the relevant trade unions would have had a proper documentation about what it is. They will deal with all the staff and all that sort of stuff. That's not a matter that we can get involved in that detail. But what we can be and express our concerns about, and I've reached out to say that I would like to have a discussion under the civic agreement, civic partnership, because the RDU, as it's called, is also part of that civic partnership. So it is quite important, because they would ask me, quite rightly, what's happening with this reorganisation? What is the impact to the university? What is the impact? What can we do? And so it's important that we have that conversation the other way. I mean, there was a report, an independent report out this time last year from the university, and it might have changed with some of the numbers, but the direct value of higher education exports to Exeter is something like £129 million. That's important to the economy of Exeter. This is higher than all but 4 other constituencies in the country. So the report was on a constituency level, Lord Mayor. So when you look at it, you know, I know it's a top Russell group, but out of 4 constituencies, we are in the top on what the value brings. Higher education makes up over 17% of all the exports in this constituency. Exeter is one of 26 constituencies where higher education is the largest export, and 102 where it is one of the top 3. So I don't want to go on with more detail. What I'm trying to demonstrate to you, it is economically important to this city that we have a vibrant university here in Exeter. So I don't want to go along and try to tell the Vice-Chancellor how to run their business. You know, we'll do it in publication. But what I want to talk to her about is the impact. Have they assessed the impact? I would like to discuss that impact, because it is a bit of a, I'm not sure if this is right, a bit of a circular economy, you know, what's going on here in Exeter. It's so important that we have these young people and, of course, these facilities in Exeter. It also put Exeter on the map internationally, which is so important to me. You know, we've just gone through a process of telling government how important Exeter and the outlying areas is and why we should be a unitary authority, because we have big ambitions for this city. We need key stakeholders to work with us on all of that. Of course, I would have a discussion. I would fear that the Vice-Chancellor may say, well, can you give us some money? And that's what, you know, what the answer would be to that. We can't do that. But I think there are other ways, other things, so I will do that, and I don't need a motion to tell you to do that. So, over the weekend, I was in the tent with the UCU at the Topine Festival. I went to the UCU, I talked to some of the people, not just about Exeter, about what is happening in their sector throughout the country and some of the problems. Trying to get that feedback in the background to understand what the bigger problem is. And of course, it is a bigger problem, not just about money. And you've been very nice not reminding any of us, but there is a political issue here on what we can do nationally politically. Steve Race has made a comment, but once again, he needs to be in that position where he needs to be careful. I will be speaking to our MP and also David Reid, if he cares to talk to me about it, because we need to talk about the constituents and the impact. What can he do? I mean, we've got a new Secretary of State for Education, but I feel sure all their trades or inboxes is full of all sorts of stuff. But we've got to tell them how important this is, and government may be able to do something in relation to that. So it wouldn't be a case of going up there and acting in place of the trade union. I've done that for 40 odd years, I've been there. But this would be about our community where we live, and these people work with us, live with us, they have jobs dependent upon. I mean, back along it was something like 13,000 people connected with the university, direct and indirect, which is all very, very important. That has a major impact on our city. So we need to understand what that is going to do. And is there anything we can do politically or through some of the levers that we may or may not be able to pull? One or two may be a bit rusty, but can we pull those levers to try to assist the university? They are a major partner, they are a major player, and that goes with the RD&U as well, Lord Mayor. So yes, we will be supporting it as amended, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I have Councillor Ruppert.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. To declare my interest, I am speaking as an employee of the University of Exeter with a partner who is been identified as at risk. And I'm also the casework coordinator for the UCU, which has been mentioned a number of times. Just a few brief points from me. One, just as a point of clarification, the Trade Union and Labour Relations Act has been brought up a couple of times now. Just to mention that's from 1992, not 1982, just so we have that clear for the record. It's also been queried whether there's other trade unions that are recognized on campus. That is true. Unite and Unison are also recognized, but these redundancies apply to academic staff, and academic staff are represented by the UCU. So there's no issue here about the wording. Other than that, I would just like to say how encouraged I am by the robustness of the debate here, the various points that are being made, and I think this has been a very considerate discussion, and I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ruth Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I will be supporting this motion, and I thank colleagues for bringing it forward. Just a background to myself, I'm a graduate of the university in chemistry, both PhD and bachelor's level, and I witnessed in 2006 the university closing its chemistry department, and at that stage it closed the department just after an initial intake of students, and those students were left adrift. So I think that I am very heartened to see the Vice-Chancellor in her letter to us saying that she would emphasise there are no proposals to close any academic departments or disciplines, and that all three of our faculties will retain their full subject provision. I think the one thing I haven't heard anybody mention much about is the students, that they may face an uncertainty, and I hope that there are discussions going ahead with the Guildhall students, which is how Exeter University describes its student union. So yes, this is very, very tough, and I hope those negotiations are very serious. I was also a member of, it wasn't UCA in those days, but I was also active on union guns. So these are very, very difficult times, but it sounds to me as if they're certainly doing a better job of it than they did in 2006, when they shut the department and the students were just left to find their own way. Thank you.
Do I have any more members who have not yet already spoken that wish to speak? Councillor Terry.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to go back to something that Councillor Baker and Councillor Beard both touched on a little bit. One is the importance of international students who are obviously a valuable residents of the city, but also generate additional income to the university as they pay increased rates. And there are reasons why those numbers have dropped, particularly in international postgraduates. Well, I'll just say here, I'm speaking as an employee of the university. Governmental policy is having an impact on the number of international postgraduate students that are willing to come.
Can you keep your points relevant to the motion that's being debated, please, Councillor?
I just wanted to mention the international student levy that's being applied in 2028 and the curtailment of graduate visas from, I believe, 2 years to 18 months. Which
again, they're relevant to this motion. Thank you. Do I have any other members who have not yet already spoken? No. Councillor, would you like to sum up before we go to the vote?
Yes, thank you. Apologise if I don't sum up everyone's contributions, because I'm sure we want to leave before midnight this evening. But I think it's been a robust and interesting debate, because I think what we've tried to do is produce something that speaks on behalf of Exeter and the people of Exeter, speaking to these two important bodies, without, in effect, inflaming the situation. But I think those who are listening, and through your contributions, have got the intensity of feeling about the broader features that have started this whole process off. So therefore, I hope those listening take those into account. They are not necessarily automatically encapsulated within the motion, and that was deliberate, because we want to play our roles in the civic partnership to bring the bodies together. Because do we want the university telling us what happens, how we organise local government reform? Everybody has a role. They have their role in their businesses, etc. And I think, irrespective of what we might feel about the university or problems we have with the university at times, was it the notice of motion, etc., that triggered a letter from the Vice-Chancellor about this issue? Or was it just the national publicity that you thought we ought to know? I think they are aware of this and they will be following this debate. As I said, I think, as Councillor Wood said it is the importance of the civic agreement partnership that we've got that nucleus of bringing bodies together. And it's not just us talking to those two bodies, the Met Office, other bodies are there. So you've got a broader spectrum of life in Exeter who can discuss the implications of this, because what we're concerned about is both the implications for the individuals who are involved in this process and for the impact upon Exeter as a civic body. And I was most impressed with Councillor Reid. I point out that I am here because I was made redundant by university, so and I won't name the university, it wasn't it? So that gave me more time on my hands. Perhaps Phil would like to re-employ me and send me back there again. But I was made redundant. The process was very poorly handled. I had to go to an industrial tribunal, etc., etc., etc. So I know the pain that this causes to individuals, and I know when particular subject areas like my own are focused as the attention of where the redundancy. And I had students already signed up for the following year, and students on master's programs, and we had to follow through and sort that out. So we've got that empathy, that understanding here. Coming back to Councillor Johnson's point, I think we did deliberately try to word this. It wasn't provocative, it wasn't trying to tell, but it was trying to say, we are here, we want to talk with you, discuss it, and will you try to broaden your discussions with as many partners as possible so you understand the impact on others when you're making your consideration of the way forward. And I know from information passed on from colleagues in the RD&E, they have volunteers to get voluntary redundancy. But they are all backroom staff they're looking for. they wouldn't allow the front of service staff to apply for the redundancy. And I think that the last record I see, they've got 75 from where they started because of the voluntary route that they're undertaking. I'm happy, as I say, to accept the recommendation in regard to the trade unions being involved in this. I think if we can, as much as possible, make this united message from us as a council to these two important bodies to say, we're here, we're happy to talk, we would like to listen as well, but we're not here to run your businesses. That's your situation, not ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move to the vote, as a reminder to those members present and to those at home. Sorry, Councillor.
My apologies, Lord Mayor. May I just raise a point of clarification before you introduce the vote? There's two motions that are very similar to each other. If we vote on this one, will the second motion still go ahead and will we still debate it? Or will accepting this motion mean that the second motion is no longer required?
The two motions are separate.
Thank you.
So as a reminder, oh, sorry, Councillor Darling.
Sorry, just another point of clarification. You asked if any, before we vote, do we need to declare any association with the university? I wasn't clear on that point.
The monitoring officer has given dispensation, so it's happy that there is no further need to declare any interest before the vote. Thank you. So, the points that you are voting on are that the council resolves to seek appropriate communication with the university and hospital trust with regards to the proposed cuts to departments and the impact on services they provide to the wider community, and requests that the leader asks that both organisations participate in a meaningful consultation process and listen to the views of staff, recognised trade unions and other key stakeholders such as students and health service partners. Can I see all those in favour, please show of hands. Any against? Any abstentions? That has been carried. Thank you, members. Before we move on to the next item, I am going to use my position as chair to say I've drunk quite a lot of water this evening trying to keep cool, so I'm going to call a 5-minute break. If that's okay, Councillor Mitchell, before we go, sorry. Could you?
The point of order, could we please have an interpretation following your earlier ruling of what might happen in regard to Standing Order 26? And you might need the 5-minute break to consult on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. 5-minute break.
Those able, please not stand and vote. All bear Exeter.
Thank you. We now move to agenda item 13, which is notice of motion by Councillor Chelvanham. Excuse me, in accordance with Standing Order 6, details of which are set out in the summons. Before I ask the Councillor to read the notice, I would like to state that I am only allowing recommendations 1, 3 and 4. I am not allowing recommendation 5, as the minutes of this meeting are shared publicly as a matter of course. And I am not allowing recommendation 2, as I feel that has been covered by a previous motion by Councillor Mitchell. Members will also note that recommendation 3 would have resource implications in terms of officer time, preparing a report, as well as the cost of external expertise, none of which has been costed nor equivalent savings identified. And if this motion is passed, the resourcing implications will need to be scoped by officers and brought back to council before any work is commenced. Councillor Chelvanham, can I ask you to please read out your motion and read only the resolutions to which I am allowing full debate?
Thank you, Mayor. Council resolves to express its concern to the government and Exeter's MPs regarding the scale of proposed and anticipated job losses across Exeter's major public sector institutions and the potential consequences for the city's economy and communities. Resolution 3. Request that the leader reports to council on the potential economic implication for Exeter arising from significant reductions in employment within major public sector organisations, including impacts on housing demand, local businesses, employment, skills and economic development, together with any actions that the council and its partners may take to mitigate those impacts. And resolution 4, reaffirm the council's commitment to working with local public sector partners, employers, educational institutions, businesses and community organisations to support employment, skills, development, economic resilience and inclusive growth across Exeter.
Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Lord Mayor, reserve my right to speak, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, would you like to introduce the motion and speak?
Thank you. Lord Mayor, members, we move this motion in a spirit of care for our city and curiosity about what we can do together. This motion is about people, staff wondering whether their jobs are safe, families trying to plan ahead, young people asking whether there will be a future for them here, and residents who depend on institutions that have shaped Exeter for generations. The University of Exeter and the Royal Devon University Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust are not just major employers, they are anchors of our city's economy, public life and future. Alongside councils and other public bodies, they provide skills, care, services, confidence and local spending. When university and hospital staff face staff freezes and redundancies, and when local government reorganisation may bring further change, we should treat that uncertainty not as an abstract process, but something felt around kitchen tables, in lecture rooms, wards, offices and homes across our city. We do not yet know the full scale of proposed university and hospital job losses, or which local government roles and services may change, but once skills, experience and public service capacity are lost, they are not easily rebuilt. This motion is about policy, redundancies and other employment changes at the city's anchor organisations would not stop at the workplace door. Their impact would reach local shops, cafes, childcare providers, cultural venues, trades and services, and narrow the horizons for the next generation growing up in Exeter. We as a council need to work with our major public sector employers to plan for our shared future. It is a housing issue too. Exeter already faces intense pressure, and insecure work can affect rents, mortgages, household stability, and whether young people can imagine building their lives here. This motion asks for a practical response, transparency, meaningful engagement with staff and trade unions, alternatives to compulsory redundancies wherever possible, urgent communication with our MPs and government about university and hospital job losses, and a clear report back on the implication for Exeter's economy and housing. This is not an attack on any institution, nor a denial of the pressures they face. It is a call for openness, partnership and care for the people who serve the city every day. Exeter's strength has always come from its people. If the institutions that move opportunity here are under pressure, we should ask questions, seek answers and speak up for the well-being of our city, because the decisions made now will shape the Exeter our children and young people inherit. We acknowledge that similar motions have come forward. We recognise the shared concern behind them and have sought collaboration so Council can speak with one voice. These issues are bigger than any one party position, and for these reasons we ask Council to support 3 resolutions in this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open for debate. Can I please remind members to focus their discussions on the points that are being debated in this motion and not the ones that I am not accepting, and that you do not repeat yourselves, and remember that members may only speak once on each motion. Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. With your permission, I'll remain seated. The heat's actually getting to be a little bit. I'd like to propose an amendment, if I'm allowed to at this point, because I have real concerns about point 3 regarding how much work that is going to put on the leader specifically. I'm very aware that we are undergoing huge processes outside of this motion, and I do want to just talk about the motion, so I'm not going to go into any detail about what else is going on outside of this motion, but I think we're all very aware. And I feel quite concerned that we do not burden the leader or the chief executive and her staff any further by asking them to do more work on something which actually, in my opinion, the university and the hospital should be doing. So the university and the hospital should be assessing the impact on housing. The university and the hospital should be assessing the impact on the city financially. The hospital and the university should be assessing on how this is going to affect our nighttime economy and so on and so forth. That should be part of their wider consultation process. And I feel that our job as the council is to lend our support and solidarity for residents and not actually get involved in the minutiae of the financial details, particularly when the leader and the chief executive are already under enough pressure. So my amendment suggestion would be that we remove point 3 completely and resolution 3 completely, and that we vote without the inclusion of 2, 3 and 5 as already discussed. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Mitchell. Can I ask the proposer and seconder if they are willing to accept that amendment, which is the full removal of resolution 3, leaving us only with 1 and 4?
Lord Mayor, whilst they're conferring, just to say, I would like to propose a further amendment, whether or not you want to take it into this this at this time after this, which may help, and I'll do it in order in sequential order.
Yeah, we'll deal with this one first and then we'll come to your.
Thank you. We don't accept the amendment. However, we are happy to, or open to reframing how the report is.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes then to come up with a form of words, if that's okay, to put forward. No. No, we have to deal with the amendments one at a time. Just to remind members, the cameras are still going. We're just having a moment to allow them to agree the wording. I'm not taking any questions at the moment. We're just letting this amendment sit and then we'll take further questions and amendments. No. What point of order?
Point of information in connection with point 3.
I need them to come forward with their wording first and then we will debate it again.
Lord Mayor, point of order, you have a duly proposed and seconded amendment ready for debate. We need to debate it, vote it. If the proposers of the main motion, or Councillor Ballock or anybody else, wishes to replace 3 with any other form of wording, or 4, 5, 6, and 7, that's entirely up to them. But we have business to discuss whether we delete section 3
I've made
or
a
not.
ruling that I'm allowing them a couple of minutes to come up with some wording to get taken on board Councillor Hughes' amendment request. So we'll allow them that and then we will discuss again. I'm not taking any further conversations about it until we've given the members notice to come up with their wording. 1 more minute, thank you.
Could I just know what wording? We are moving the removal of the paragraph. Full stop.
If they're not willing to accept that in its whole and to remove section 3 entirely, that would negate the motion completely, so therefore I wouldn't accept it as an amendment. This is a compromise to be able to find something in between. If you would like to have that happen, otherwise we will carry on and there will be no further amendment, but there won't be a discussion on that or vote on your amendment. Councillor, do you have some amended wording for us? Okay, would you like to read out the amendment for point 3? Yeah, members, are we all please listening so we are clear on what we are going to be debating? Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to, giving us a few minutes to do that, and members, thank you. So the amended wording is request that the leader provides a verbal report to scrutiny on potential economic implications for Exeter, arising from significant reductions in employment with major public sector organisations, including impacts on housing demand, local businesses, employment skills, and
Sorry, Councillor, could you start again and just slow it down a bit because we need to make sure we've got it documented. Thank you.
So request that the leader provides a verbal report to scrutiny on the potential economic implications for Exeter arising from significant reductions in employment within major public sector organisations, including impacts on housing demand, local businesses, employment skills and economic development, together with any actions that the Council and its partners may take to mitigate these impacts, following discussions with the University and the hospital.
Lord Mayor, if it helps them to draft 3 in such a way that it could be acceptable, particularly to my group, I have already said we would have a meeting, but and I'm happy to report back the outcomes of that meeting, where I think I made it clear in my earlier contributions, I am concerned about the impact of the city. I want to talk about that, and I want to hear what they have to say about it. But this, as it is, you're asking me to go away and do like a thesis on the board. I haven't got the capacity to do that.
Can I have a moment to check if we're going to take this as the substantive point? I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave the original wording because that wording makes it a duplication of the motion we had previously. So we're reverting back to the original points 1, 3 and 4. I'm not accepting Councillor Hughes' amendment because that would negate the motion, and I'm not accepting that amendment. So we are back to the original debate. Okay, is that clarification for everybody? And I will continue with the list of speakers that I have. Councillor Hughes, point of clarification.
Yeah, because I presented an amendment, does that mean now that I am unable to take part in the debate, or may I still take part in the debate?
No, you can still continue with your point on the debate. Yeah, you carry on from your point.
Marvellous, thank you, Lord Mayor. Colleagues, I want to be really clear that I fully support the idea that we are standing in solidarity with the residents of Exeter. That is the priority of this council, okay? We are elected by residents to represent them and to take forward their concerns. We aren't elected to interfere, to use Councillor Jobson's word from earlier, in the business workings of any of the institutions, establishments, businesses in this city. We are here to represent the views of residents. Therefore, I cannot accept this motion as it stands because it is asking us to overreach our position as councillors. It's asking us to interfere in something which is not currently our business. And that's not to say that I don't stand with the sentiment. I want to be really clear that I stand with the sentiment. I voted in support of the previous motion because, Mitchell, it was vague enough, yeah, for us to not appear to be overstepping. Please don't take that as a criticism of your marvellous motion. But I think it's really clear that as a body we remain vague in that sense, and that our only priority is to represent the views of our residents. So for that reason, I am not able to accept this motion in its current stand. Thank you, Lord Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Councillor Patrick. Did you wish to speak?
Point of clarification
Relating to?
relating to the question that was just, or the points that were just mentioned. I'm just intrigued in terms of interfering with aspects that are not currently our business. What aspects are they? I'd like that to be outlined.
You can talk about that during your opportunity for discussion. That I wouldn't consider that point of clarification, Councillor.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Actually, Councillor Hughes has said a lot of what I was going to say. I'm really concerned about the resource that would be required to do that sort of modelling across lots of different aspects, economic aspects of these university and hospitals decisions. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I reiterate that. Also, just to remind, as far as I'm aware, we can call these organisations into scrutiny ourselves. We can invite them in and we can ask them questions. And I think that might be a little bit more appropriate than us going off and doing an awful lot of work at a very, very busy time. And just needless to say, obviously I am in full sympathy with anybody going through, redundancy warning, the sector I work in, to constantly go through redundancy. So, I do feel for anybody experiencing this. But I don't think that this is an appropriate motion in this case.
Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Palmer.
Thanks. First, I'd like to say thank you all for supporting our motion. And I feel that emotions are much higher here. I think there are a lot of the kind of associations with the university. You're probably going through this far more than many other people in this room are. So again, it's a really personal thing. And I just have a few things that I kind of am really concerned about. So I think point 3, potentially we're not just overstretching ourselves, but we don't have any data and we're predetermining things that we don't know anything about. So we don't know, you're kind of talking about potential losses. We don't actually know what they are. We can only deal with, I think at the moment, the number of proposals that are on the table in terms of the consultations that we know are happening. I don't know how we would go about getting information about potential economic impacts without actually knowing how many people are impacted. And I think there were some points there again around the scale. We don't know that we talk about the scale of things. Again, I think we're creating fear when perhaps we don't need to. If I was somebody sitting at home, maybe listening to this, thinking, my goodness, how many people could this impact? And the answer is we don't know. And actually, there is no point at the moment. We are living in really, I talk about this a lot at work, we're seeing people, feeling really, really difficult things, in all sorts of work environments, because life is really challenging, actually. Whether you're going through this or you're watching the news, you're seeing all sorts of global things going on. And actually, I think adding unnecessary worry at this point to people whose jobs may not be impacted is not helpful at all. So I would just urge a bit of kind of calm and rational thinking. That's kind of why we were deliberately a bit vague, actually, because it's not my job to kind of say, this many people are impacted, because I actually don't know. So we're dealing with facts. So I would just encourage you to maybe think more about the facts that we have. Let's not speculate. Again, it's a legal process. You don't want to be seen as predetermining or prejudicing the outcome. This meeting is recorded. It is documented. So I don't want anyone further down the line, kind of accusing anyone here of predetermining, a legal process.
Thank you. I have Councillor Darling.
Thank you, and thank you for the information. I think I'm going to somewhat echo what Councillor Patrick has already said, and I agree with Councillor Hughes as well, in that I really don't think it's the council that should be doing this work. I think this work should be done by the university and the hospital. They have the academic resources to do this in a way that our council and our hospital do not. So I do want to support this motion. I do think those points made in sub-point 3 are really, really important. But I would like to find a way to place the onus on the university and the hospital to provide that information. Even the speculation on we have some idea of the scale of the job losses, so it might be possible to do something with this information. I just don't think it's our council officers that should do it. Thank you.
Councillor Atkinson.
Yes, sorry, thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have great difficulty with this motion because it's all over the place. It starts talking about the university and then straight into other areas generally. But if I could address the particulars, so let's look at number 1. I mean, it's such a pity that an amendment wasn't made to the last motion to add MPs. But I think that what is being suggested here is included in the stakeholders reference to the last motion. So I can't support it for that reason. In relation to number 3, I mean, what this seems to stem from is a lack of understanding of how local government works, if I may say, because this is skills and economic development and impact is the domain of the Devon and Torquay Combined Authority, not this council, and also the Devon County Council. And it would have been better if you had put in your motion that you ask your county councillors, those that are sitting in this room, to take it up with those two authorities, and in particular Devon County Council, rather than have it here. And for the reasons that were said by Councillor Hughes, this is not the area that this council does and all the data preparation to back that up. And if you remember the learning ability of the Southwest was replaced by the Devon and Torquay Combined Authority to specifically look at the points in point 3. In relation to point 4, you've already heard on numerous occasions in this chamber how this council is committed to working with local partners. So why would we want to reaffirm that? It's not under threat. We say every single time in this chamber how we value other partners and how we work with them on a whole range of issues. So why would we need to reaffirm it? We already believe it, we already do it, and this is just hot air because it's not under threat. We will continue to do that. For those 3 reasons, I cannot support this motion in any, as currently being worded, and I would say that I voted for the first one because I thought it was a good motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Mitchell and then Councillor Bialik.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I find myself in total agreement with Councillor Atkinson. I don't know whether I ought to sit down or not. Sorry. We're in total agreement with our yellow red buttons now. I might continue then. As I said, I'm in agreement with the sentiments expressed by Councillor Atkinson. I think also I'm concerned about the council note section at the beginning. The motion that you've just passed related to 2 sets of redundancies. We are now in the process of happening, hence we were careful in our wording, totally Lib Dem vague in them, because processes are underway at the hospital trust and at the university. I find it extremely misleading to add in Exeter City Council and Devon County Council. As far as I know, serving on both bodies, there are no planned programmes currently by those bodies to carry out redundancies. And at the time of local government reorganisation, when there is so much uncertainty, to put that in provides an additional level of insecurity to staff who want to feel secure as they pass across to the new authority. It is up to the new authority to state what they do with their workforce when they get it. It is not up to us to put our workers who we want business as usual to undermine them by this sort of language. And also it gets worse in the paragraph 2. It talks about the university placing around 500 members. My understanding, I thought it would be useful if we had that in full-time equivalents, because rather than, because if you take part-time staff, a large number will be part-time, the numbers do add up. If you talk of full-time equivalents, it would be useful to have those 2 numbers side by side. In relation to the 3rd bullet point about the ongoing reorganisation, which is expected to lead to significant changes, it is vague. We don't know. Nobody knows what workforce planning is taking place because these authorities don't exist. We exist. We do not have those plans. And I think, as I say, that is, I think, misleading to put it in there. What I then come to is, do these proposals add anything to the motion that you've just agreed. Yes, by all means, write to the MPs, and in 2 weeks' time, you'll get a nice letter back and it'll be published. I think if you want to write to the MPs, you need to be proposing a course of action that's far clearer than just saying thank you very much. In relation to paragraph 3, I totally agree at this time. We have neither the resources, the time, or the need to carry out the depth of research that will be required. And then when we've got that information, how do we implement it, or how does it impact on our plans when we're 18 months away from a new authority? As other members have said, this material is available from the university, it's available for council. By all means, invite them in if you wish into a scrutiny meeting to discuss what is happening. That's whether they turn up or not, it's entirely at their discretion. But that might be a formula a way around that. And as I say, in regard to number 4, I agree with Councillor Atkins, is what I think we know as Tracy's houseboat, a statement of like the obvious. This council supports businesses. If we didn't support businesses, there wouldn't be an Exeter. And I think it adds nothing of value to what we've already passed. Thank you.
Councillor Bialik.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm not going to repeat many of the points that Councillor Mitchell said, and I want to assure people that there is nothing going on in some unholy alliance when I say I agree with Councillor Palmer. So don't worry about that. Look, we all care, okay? We all care what is happening to the individuals. They feel it most. One redundancy is one redundancy too many. This talks about 500. The email we've had from the Vice-Chancellor talks about 153. This adds to what Councillor Palmer was saying. We're all misinterpreting, jumping to conclusions and doing everything that we shouldn't do. I'm confident that the recognised trade union will do their job, Lord Mayor. But the problem is, I like vague notices of motion and now a motion passed by this council. But what happens here is people tend to trip up. Yes, it is about what we've resolved to do, but it's also about the notes. I can't agree to any in where it says council notes. I can't agree to anything of number 2, council notes. I can't agree to that. It's making a number of assumptions. Oh my God, we've just fought hard for local government reorganisation in this county. Is this telling me, don't do it, Phil, you need to stay as we are? No, come on, think about it. Do we care about those people? We had a meeting last night. We do care about the people. These are the main people that we need to make aware of what's going on. And I know the Chief Executive wrote to all the staff first, before us, as important as we like to think we are. The staff heard it first from the Chief Executive, although it was all released by other people. And that was only important. Item 3, well, you've heard it all about the resources, but that is a study, for want of a better expression, that should be conducted not by this council. Because, so if Stagecoach say they're going to announce a number of bus cuts and service cuts and take out 50 jobs, am I now got to do, are we now going to be the arbitrator in Exeter of every company who makes it redundancy? So we can't agree it. Now, I don't want us to be painted that we don't care. And I've got to say, I hope you don't mind me saying it, there is no monopoly on caring, by the way. No one party has a monopoly on caring. We all care. And I've got a funny feeling how all this is going to be portrayed somewhere else. I've got a funny feeling about that. Let's see how that goes. As far as I'm concerned, Lord Mayor, we've already said, we've committed to talk to the Vice-Chancellor and also the RDEU within the civic agreement. I've already said that I do not need a notice of motion from this council to write to my MP. Okay? I don't need any instruction to actually use the civic agreement that you talked about. When I'm telling you I'm giving a commitment in this room, I'm going to do all that. I said I'm going to do it. I will bring back the outcome in a better way than just verbal. I will make sure, and if members when they need to go to scrutiny to give that report or a report to the executive of that, I will do all of that because we care over here. I care over here. I've been here before. I know exactly what is happening. So I'm going to do all that. But the worded notice of motion is not necessary for the council notes, nor is number 3. And many of the other actions about restructuring should, wherever possible, minimise compulsory redundancies. Yes, of course. That's exactly what we're going to. International staff and students making a valuable contribution. Yes, I know that we've said that all the time. We've said it all the time. Some people in this city need to be reminded of that occasionally, by the way. And also, decisions affecting major employers should be informed by meaningful consultation. Of course it should be informed by meaningful consultation. We've dealt with that, to be quite honest. Nothing changes. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to complicate the vagueness of Councillor Mitchell's notice of motion by agreeing to this one, Lord Mayor. I think we should vote against it.
Thank you. Before I move on to our next member to speak, I still have 8 members on my list to speak. So can I please remind everybody that time is moving on and therefore I do not want to hear any repetition of points already raised. Next on my list is Councillor Jobson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I will not repeat what has already been said, but can you please re-say it in bold type and emphasise? But what I find dispiriting in this motion is the negativity of it, particularly when you read point 4 and the council notes that. This is an opportunity. It's a magnificent local government reform. It's a magnificent and exciting opportunity for Exeter, and we should be embracing it. All the residents of the city, in the city and in the 49 parishes that we will be working together with, have wonderful opportunities. And we should be making sure that our educational establishments, not just the university, but Exeter College with its brilliant apprenticeship programme, and the other businesses and entrepreneurs that may be looking to relocate to Exeter are getting a positive message from this council and not a negative message. And this motion, to my mind, is negative. I would just have one caveat, Leader. Please, can you ask your MP, I will certainly ask the one for Exeter and Exeter East, the one for Exeter and Exeter East, if they could just remind the new Prime Minister that the South West is a vibrant and flourishing region and that Exeter and surrounds can be the economic drivers for the South West. Yes. Manchester may be lovely, but there is life outside Manchester, and please can you make sure that Exeter and the South West region get the resources needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Manchester is not up for debate in this motion. I would now move on to Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, much appreciated. Again, just declaring my interest in relation to my associate status at the university. Just like to cast this council's mind back to what Councillor Bialik said between agenda items 5 and 6 this evening, and I quote, "There are uncertainties now experienced by staff as a result of LGR." So what is it? Are there uncertainties or not? We were also told by Councillor Bialik earlier that £129 million is the economic uplift experienced by this constituency as a result of our university. And I think point 3 around what the council resolves to do in this motion is exactly in response to that. I take on board Councillor Palmer's point about the lack of data. Well, of course there's a lack of data, and that's exactly what point 3 is trying to generate, is an understanding of what the impact financially is on this city. Now, I don't believe that we can necessarily expect the university or the hospital to undertake that analysis on our behalf. No chance. I don't expect to see that data, and yes, I think it is within the council's responsibility. Just picking up on Councillor Hughes' point around interfering with aspects that are not currently our business, well, my understanding is that housing and local businesses are absolutely our business. And I'd like to defend our housing supply and our local businesses through these issues. I also take quite a lot of issue with this notion around emotions. Of course there are emotions, and there should be emotions. If we were here without them, I'm sorry to say this would be a pretty disappointing conversation. I know many people who are at risk of redundancy right now. They are emotional, and if I'm coming across as emotional, well, I'm sorry, it's because I'm representing those people, as well as the people who emailed me today saying, please back both of these motions, which I will gladly do. So where are we at? Well, we spoke a lot in the previous motion about political point scoring. Well, I'm afraid to say I'm hearing a lot of political point scoring in this debate. I don't think we put forward any political points, really, in relation to point one, motion one, and I'm not going to do the same here. I will be voting for this motion, and I support it. Thank you.
Councillor Fulham.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd just like to say on point 3, I think we've got limited capacity in this council to do things, and it's important that we focus on the important issues. And I think this body of work proposed is excessive for the scale of what we're looking at. There's top organisations come and go, changes happen, and I don't think the council is in a position to make a response to this scale to all those changes as they come along. So I'm just very reluctant to support it on that basis. I would say on item 4, and made to the reaffirmation of the council's commitment. That does speak to my previous conversation, which I won't repeat, but it's really important to get a balanced perspective on the education needs of the city. So I'm really pleased that item 4 is there, because it does speak to the broad context that we need to be very mindful of when we're looking at how we go forward in the future. So I'm sorry to say I won't be able to support this, but I just think that the previous motion covers what we need to do, and this one creates a body of work which is undermining the capacity of this council to do the important thing which is taking the council forward and making significant changes in the near future.
Councillor Moore, you've popped your hand up. Do you want to speak now?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Will I be closing down the debate? Okay, thank you. It's very interesting to hear what people are saying. I just would like to remind the council the title of this motion is about protecting Exeter's public sector institutions and the local economy. So this is different from what we previously discussed. And I agree with Councillor Alec, we do care. But I think we need to actually think about the implications of this. Throughout the local government reorganisation process, the economy was talked about, and it is the economy and the economy and the economy. And Councillor Barlow has often looked at me and said, oh, we don't want to talk about the economy, but actually we do want to talk about the economy. And actually, we know that the public sector, and what we affirm in point 1, is that public sector organisations are the bedrock of our economy here in Exeter. It doesn't make any suggestion, Councillor Mitchell, in point 1, any suggestion at all that there's job losses within the county council or Exeter Council. It affirms in point 1 that actually they have a really valuable role to play. And Councillor Atkinson, just want to speak to your criticism here. I spent many hours sitting through the local plan hearings, underpinning some of that was really important pieces of evidence, particularly around housing
clarification, Councillor.
I'm being misquoted by the member of Greens. She says, I make reference to bullet point 1, bullet point 2. I was referring to the third point on your preamble of notes, which states the ongoing reorganisation of local government in Devon, which is expected to lead to significant changes in employment across local authorities. That was the point I was referring to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. I noticed that you also said that. In relation to the local plan, that was informed by studies on housing needs analysis, numbers of student accommodation that was needed, economic development. In a new authority, it will also have a role around
local business support, local economic support, and in fact, believe that the council represents us here in the combined authorities. So actually, if there are significant impacts and the changes within these organisations, we need to know because it affects the skills and employment strategy, our housing needs analysis, our local plan, and we need to be actually looking at the impacts of that to actually make sure that we can advocate for Exeter based upon the latest information available. And I just wanted to say that we actually should be really talking about the importance of our public institutions in our local economy. Because the South West hasn't been getting the profile that it deserves nationally. All the discussion that we've been hearing about is the economy up north. And I congratulate Mr. Burnham, the new Prime Minister. I wish him well. And when he heads up north, I hope he takes a left turn and comes down to the South West to visit us. And he'll see that if he pops down here for Devon on his holiday, that we have a vibrant tourist industry that has to work really hard to sustain itself. And it's important for him to know that the public sector offers vital jobs and is a bedrock of our economy. And sometimes it's easy to feel that the South West is forgotten, but we're not disconnected. And I want to pick up on Councillor Terry's point. Our European and global links here in the city are really important. We benefit from overseas nationals who come to work here for the NHS and the international staff and students who come here too. Sadly, since Brexit, coming here as a student is harder to do. And many students are finding other countries more attractive and more welcoming for international staff and students. And this is a serious risk to our university. And currently, sadly, it seems the richness of overseas students.
Councillor, can I please again remind you to keep the matter focused to the points being discussed in the motion?
Yes, we have a section in the motion about international students. May I speak to that?
In the resolutions?
We recognise the point 4. Council believes international staff and students make a valuable contribution to the economy, and it's not yet being discussed. I understand.
Keep to the.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I think that the richness of overseas students is not just in the diversity of the global relationships they offer, but in how much they will pay to learn. I'm concerned that government is making it harder when in August 2028, the university will have to pay the government a levy for each international student at a rate of £925 a student. We do need to restore maintenance grants for UK students.
Councillor, sorry, your point is about that students and staff should be welcomed and supported, so can you please keep your points to that matter and not veering off onto national issues?
Okay, thank you. So we need policy which enables students to come here because they make a significant contribution to our local economy. So if devolution and local government reorganisation is to be successful, we need to see a sustainable, fairer and healthier economy, and one which centres on reducing inequality, which has continued to rise in our city. And a resilient economy relies on good public sector jobs, properly funded institutions that provide them, and a certain future. And that way, we can create a resilient, lasting economy. Thank you.
Councillor Wood, do you still wish to speak?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Bizarrely, I welcome this motion simply because if the previous motion hadn't been put forward, and this was how we were going to explore how we would support the university and the issues that they're facing, then I'd welcome it. As it stands, we have passed a motion which I think is at the right level of involvement for this council in providing our stated support both to the anchor organisations, the University One, and also the individuals who are a majority, I'm guessing, will be residents within the city, not all, I think that strikes that correct balance. So whilst I welcome this motion because it means that we are able to look at something, I feel that it overreaches, that it's overcomplicated. There have been, I'm not going to repeat all the criticisms that have been made, but the other thing I would like to say is that I do welcome it as well because it's a motion from a new councillor to the, just joined the council, and it's a brave thing to do, to put a motion before this lot. They can be both quite uncharitable at times. So thank you for the work that you've put in. Thank you for bringing the subject to the table. But for me, the previous motion has reached as far as we need to reach. Thank you for bringing it and giving us the opportunity to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think it's quite regrettable that this second motion that we're debating here is being continued to be put forward. I think it's created a false rhetorical impression that groups other than the Green Group who put in the motion are not in favour of the economy, are not in favour of overseas students and workers coming to work in Exeter, and that could be not further than the truth. I think there's a lack of understanding sometimes on the opposite benches that time is money, and that scope has to be managed in a well-run council, and that we have to stick to our scope as a council. The money for the local enterprise partnership, when it was disbanded, went to Devon County Council, and I think we have heard from other speakers that we do have Devon County councillors sitting on the opposite benches, and that they perhaps are the best place to be taking up these issues of the economy, and that we should continue as Exeter City Council to focus on delivering for the people of Exeter within the scope of our responsibilities, and that we should focus on delivering value for money to the people of Exeter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Rappert.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll refer to my declaration of interest previously requiring. I just want to address some points that have been raised by members so far. One of those relates to uncertainty, in some sense that we just don't know what's going to happen in terms of job cuts. Here I would need to refer you to the letter that the Vice Chancellor sent to all of us. In that letter, she talks about 2 rounds of voluntary redundancies that have already taken place, and the staff freeze at the university. What we're experiencing now, at the time that we're in with the latest announcements, right, is just aligned in a kind of progression of where the universities are going, which is a state of, if I can say it in this way, managed decline, sadly. So I don't think these changes are unpredictable. I think there is a history that we can draw on. Again, the trust in the way that it makes its employment decisions, it doesn't blow with the wind. This comes from national government policy in terms of the NHS settlement, amongst them. Do people in the council know how to deal with uncertainty in modeling? They do it all the time. So I really don't find this a kind of credible criticism. There's been some suggestion here that the university should undertake a study of the impact of public sector cuts on housing. I find this very curious as someone who's worked at the university for over 20 years. I will be interested in hearing what sort of conversations are had with the Vice Chancellor about the university undertaking this work. There is simply, the trust isn't going to take that work, the university isn't going to undertake it, there has to be a public body that undertakes it. We are the city council, so what do we do in this case? I want to address some factual points, particular coming from Councillor Mitchell. Again, to reiterate a point that my colleague, Councillor more already made. There is no discussion about redundancies with local government reorganization. We are talking about significant changes in employment. Like many of you, I would have went to a briefing about local government reorganization recently, and I heard in that a lot of discussion about changes in employment and what the council was doing to speak to its members, to its employees, about managing that change. So I don't know why this is the source of contention. Councillor Mitchell also talked about 500 members of staff affected by university redundancies, and then made a point that this was maybe a difference in FTE versus headcount. I have to point you to what the motion says again. The motion talks about 500 members of staff at risk of redundancy. That number is accurate, so minus some individuals, but it is in the area of 500. Okay, so we're talking about at-risk members. Okay, so please, I draw your attention to the wording of this motion. Vagueness can be good, but vagueness about facts rarely is. Also, to go to the point that the leader made, saying we talk about, for instance, working in partnership with local organizations all the time. Those were his exact words. Curious then, if we keep doing this, why we can't do it at this stage, in this instance. Then, just as a final point, perhaps I'll leave it there. Obviously, I'm less great.
Rebecca, can I have a point of personal explanation here? First of all, there's a lot of new members on the authority, and I think it's important to let them understand my role on the CCA. I am an associate member representing the Devon districts, not solely and wholly Exeter, okay? The other leaders vote for me to go on there, right? They put me on there to speak on behalf of all of the Devon districts. So, and I have no vote on that, despite the arguing for that still. So I just wanted that to understand. So I have no right there. Councillor Rappert talks about, I talk about partnership. I do, and I've already said, I'm going to say it a third or possibly fourth time, I am happy to have those meetings with the university and the RD&E. But in reply to Councillor Reid, I think we all have a duty here, right, not to try to set hairs running, concerns which aren't there for our staff here in the City Council. And by locking that up here, you are worrying people for, yes, some political event, and I believe it should stop right there.
I now have Councillor Ruth Williams.
All my points have already been covered, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I thought I was the only one confused with this motion, but it seems that the opposition are also confused about the motion. Point number 2. The Royal Devon University Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust seeking substantial monetary staffing reductions as part of major financial savings. It's been shared that that employer wants to reduce their headcount by 2%. 2%. Are we saying in this council that any employer, any business, any public sector who wants to come to this city, if they want to do any kind of change, reorganisation, training opportunities, apprenticeships, new business opportunities, buying a business, selling a business, the leader has to do a full economic assessment? Housing supply, not housing supply. I'm confused on whether housing supply is included. But where does it end? Does he need to also go to the local coffee shop? Does he also have to go to childcare providers? How about he also speaks to the tinker, tailor, soldier, spy? Change happens. What we need to demonstrate to residents is our commitment to our residents, to ensure that residents aren't scared or anxious or frightened about change, because change happens every day in the NHS. new treatment options. All treatment options are made redundant. New drugs, it's a fantastic organisation to be in because of the change. But if every time a large organisation wants to do a change, we rush to peddle fear and we insist on the politics of grievance, I can't be supporting this motion because it will create undue workload on the leader, and I believe it sends the wrong signal that Exeter, following LGR, will be a fantastic place to come, work, study, and live a wonderful life. Thank you.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. I disclosed my role as an operations manager at the Royal Devon, and from that I bring the experience of managing budgets and understanding the capacity and demand problem that we have in the NHS. It's all very good for our vague motion and kind of fluffy, oh, you know, we're in new solidarity, but I think the essence of the motion raised was about the importance of data. I manage a breast care unit. I have a budget to support the number of appointments that we would expect based on our population last year. If a new housing development is built and there is no S106 paid to the RDME for those patients, the patients in those new developments will be coming into my department for appointments that don't exist. So I then need to pay locum rates, which are paid at 2 to 3 times base rate, in order to be able to see and cancel patients.
Point of order under which standing order, Councillor?
The motion be moved.
So what I'm saying is that
the motion be moved.
Yeah.
I need a standing order number, please, Councillor. No? Do you have a standing order number? Is it? I'm allowing the councillor to continue until you have a standing order number if you wish to point of order.
Yeah, so I'm making the point that there are decisions that are made by this council that do impact the financial stability of the hospital.
Standing order under standing order 10 for content of speeches. A member shall direct his or her speech to the question under discussion or to a personal explanation or to a point of order.
Okay, that wasn't the one that was just talked about. I'm going to allow the councillor to continue. I'll allow you to continue.
Yeah. So what I'm making is that the point, so I think the point of this motion is about the collection of data because numbers matter. There are decisions that are made in this council that do impact the university and the NHS. And so I think that it is very important for us to be able to count these impacts and look at this as a whole ecosystem for which we're all involved. Thank you.
Thank you. 13E.
Question we now put.
This is a debate, councillor, there is no question. Have you finished with your point, councillor? Okay, thank you. I have one last member on my list. After Councillor Ketchin, do you still wish to speak? Thank you. I will now return to the proposer. Would you like to sum up briefly before we move to the vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members. Thank you to everyone who's contributed to this robustly and critically. I understand this is why we're here, and to hear different and new perspectives. I'd like to just comment on some comments about this, we're overcomplicating it. Well, it is a complicated situation. And we're also here because of politics.
Councillor, if you want to sit down, I think it's because you have your phone kind of in between them. Right? So if you want to sit down, you might be clearer to hear. Thank you.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that it is a complicated situation. And we are here because of politics, so we are all politically motivated. It would be disingenuous to say or accuse others of being politically motivated when we all are. And there's no monopoly on caring, so I just wanted to say those points. I want to be clear about what this motion is asking us to do. It's asking us to act with care and to ask responsive questions and to make sure the risks facing Exeter are named rather than being ignored. And the risks and changes are real. There are risks to jobs and household security, a risk to NHS and university capacity, a risk to local businesses that depend on staff, students, patients, visitors, and a risk to housing stability, and a risk that Exeter loses skills and experiences that cannot be rebuilt. Naming possible risks is essential and not an attack on any institution. It's an act of care and care for staff, care for families, care for public services, and care for our local economy, and care for the future our young people will inherit. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, you have a point of clarification.
Thank you for indulging me, Lord Mayor. I just want to make a very important point of clarification. Independent councillors are very proudly not politically aligned. So just to be really clear, the independent motto, if you like, is people before politics. So I just want to make that point of clarification. As an independent councillor, I am not involved in party politics. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to read what we are voting on, and we are voting on it as a whole for this motion. So we are voting on that. Council resolves to express its concern to the government and Exeter MPs regarding the scale of proposed and anticipated job losses across Exeter's major public sector institutions and the potential consequences for the city's economy and communities. And that the council resolves to request that the leader reports to council on the potential economic implications for Exeter arising from significant reductions in employment within major public sector organisations, including impacts on housing demand, local businesses, employment, skills and economic development, together with any actions that the council and its partners may take to mitigate those impacts. And the council resolves to reaffirm the council's commitment to working with local public sector partners, employers, educational institutions, businesses and community organisations to support employment, skills development, economic resilience and inclusive growth across Exeter. Can I see all hands in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? That motion has been lost. I am conscious of the time. Would anybody like a short break before we move to the next point? Okay, we will take 2 minutes then for a quick break. Can I please remind all councillors before you go that I appreciate that there has been lots of discussion and very detailed and lengthy discussion, but please respect the position of chair. I am the Lord Mayor, not the Mayor. Thank you very much. We'll see you back in 2 minutes. item 14, this notice of motion by Councillor Guildhall. This motion has been considered. Thank you. Item 14 on the agenda, the notice of motion from Councillor Guildhall has since been withdrawn, so we will not be discussing this one this evening. So moving on to agenda item 15, which is questions from members. In accordance with Standing Order 8, we have received 8 questions from members. I go first to Councillor Cookson. Can you please ask your first question?
Leader, does he agree that local government reorganisation presents an opportunity not only to simplify local government, but also to improve transparency, accountability and effective scrutiny? Recent events at Devon County Council have demonstrated why scrutiny matters. Exeter resident Solomon Elliott received national recognition in the Sunday Times for leading the grassroots campaign that successfully persuaded Devon County Council to reverse its proposed library cuts and potential library closure. While there remain unanswered questions about where, outside Exeter, the funding originally intended for the Madison Bridge replacement has ultimately been allocated. Will the leader join me in congratulating Solomon on this remarkable achievement and agree that the new authority should be built on a culture of openness, transparency and robust scrutiny?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I do. And I do agree with the work that Solomon Elliott and a good many other people have done in campaigning on the library's issues here in Exeter. One of the key arguments in Exeter's proposal is that LGR is not simply about redrawing boundaries and reducing the number of councils. It's an opportunity to create a clearer, more accountable system of local government that residents can understand and influence. Our proposed 4-unitary model would simplify the current 2-tier arrangements, making it easier for residents, businesses and communities to know who is responsible for what. But just as importantly, it would allow us to design a stronger governance from the outset, with clear lines of democratic accountability, effective scrutiny arrangements and decision-making that is closer to the distinct needs of Exeter and our neighbouring communities and the wider Devon area. We have also been clear that neighbourhood partnerships, local committees, parishes and towns should play an important role in the new arrangements, giving communities a stronger voice in shaping services and priorities. Done properly, reorganisation can improve transparency, strengthen local identity and ensure that scrutiny is not an afterthought, but a core part of how the councils operate.
Thank you. Councillor, do you have a supplementary question that relates to the answer you've just been given?
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to move on to your second question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Leader, Devon County Council has now launched a consultation on the replacement of the A379 bridges. The scheme is of particular importance to Exeter because Bridge Road is one of the city's principal transport corridors. Frequent faults and maintenance to the existing bridges cause significant disruption for road users, while the current layout creates a barrier for many residents in my Tottenham ward trying to access King George V playing fields, where Exeter City Council is supporting around £4 million of investment in new sports and community facilities. It also fails to provide the safe and convenient active travel that's needed by pedestrians and cyclists, including school children travelling to and from Isker Academy. I want to thank Exeter Cycling Campaign for inviting me to walk the length of the road to understand the opportunities this once-in-a-generation project presents. The replacement bridges are expected to remain in place for more than 60 years, yet the consultation seeks views only on Devon County Council's preferred design after alternative options providing a higher navigable air draft had already been discounted. These alternatives, supported by the Exeter Harbour Board, could improve navigation, reduce the need for bridge openings and enhance towpath connectivity for pedestrians and cyclists. Does the leader agree that consulting residents only after the principal alternatives have been ruled out is not the right way to conduct a public consultation on such a significant long-term investment? And will he continue to press Devon County Council to give proper consideration to those alternatives before a final decision is made?
Peter?
Lord Mayor, I'd like Councillor Williams to give the response to this one, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cookson, for his question. The City Council recognises the strategic importance of the Bridge Road Improvement Project and supports the scheme given its importance to Exeter and the wider sub-region. And the City Council will work with the County Council to inform the ongoing development of the project to ensure that the preferred option supports our strategic priorities. I think it's worth reminding Council that as Chair of Exeter Health Board, I wrote to the leader of Devon County Council, Julie Brazil, and also two of the portfolio holders working on this on the 20th of April, and it took them 7 weeks to respond to me. In fact, the response came over 2.5 weeks after the consultation had already started. And at the pop-up on the 1st of July, which is 2 weeks into the consultation, I was told by a Devon County Council officer, oh, I was only sent your email last week, and I'm preparing a response now. So I think it suggests that the County Council, certainly there is an issue with them taking seriously comments from the City Council. And I'm also, we are preparing a formal response to the consultation from the City Council, which we are going to be submitting towards the end of the week. And I would urge fellow councillors to participate and put their comments into the consultation, which ends on Monday. Thank you.
Councillor Cookson, do you have a supplementary question based on the answer you've just been given?
No.
Thank you. Would you now like to ask your third question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Leader, I welcome the award of more than £30,000 of external funding to tackle chewing gum staining on Exeter's streets. Clean streets make a real difference to how residents feel about their city and the impression we give to visitors. Could he explain how this funding will improve Exeter's public spaces and support the Council's wider ambition to keep our city clean, welcoming and attractive?
Peter?
Yeah, I'm not ignoring you, Councillor, but I'd like Councillor Williams to answer this one.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you again, Councillor Cookson, for enabling me to update councillors and Exeter residents about this really exciting development. Gum staining is a significant and persistent issue in a number of areas in the city. But officers have identified that along Sidwell Street, so I hope our councillors over there who keep saying that they never get anything, but you're getting the gum staining project. So we've identified Sidwell Street, staining is particularly excessive. I'm therefore really pleased to confirm that the council has secured grant funding of £25,500 for a project which will deliver a targeted gum removal programme along both sides of Sidwell Street. You'll be able to eat dinner off it after this. And it's two connecting pedestrian alleyways which consist of tarmac, granite and slab. A total area of 4,388 metres squared. These locations have been prioritised due to consistently high footfall, prolonged pedestrian dwell time and concentrated historic gum staining. The programme, which will be delivered during autumn 2026, will be focusing on identified hotspot areas, including retail frontages around litter bins and bus stops. And we will be continuing with the work because of the particular equipment that we are purchasing, and we will be able to extend the project to other parts of the city. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you.
Councillor Cookson, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Would the portfolio holder agree that the best place for used gum is the bin.
I wouldn't dare disagree, but I think that just to add, we are going to be putting little reminder signs up. I'm not quite sure what's been chosen yet, but we have to be very careful that they can't be amended or adjusted by, you can imagine the sorts of things you can happen. But I've asked for a very positive message rather than saying don't do this. So look out for the signs. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cookson, I believe you have another question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Leader, with the recent spell of hot weather encouraging more people to spend time by the River Exe and Exeter Ship Canal, could he update Council on how Exeter City Council is working with partner organisations to promote water safety, discourage dangerous activities such as jumping into the Kiel Canal, and help ensure residents and visitors can enjoy our waterways safely this summer?
Yes, I'm going to ask Councillor Williams to answer this again, and I will arrange to have a coffee with Councillor Cookson in the near future.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cookson, for this very timely question. The Council has engaged a private security contractor to carry out patrols at Double Lock, Summerpool Bridge and other key areas over weekends and evenings during the summer to advise people not to enter the water. And we're certainly discourage jumping into the water from bridges or banks, and safety notices are located along the canal. The waterways team also engage with water users when they're not out working along the canal banks and riverside, and ensure that safety messages are provided. In addition, we will be releasing public information notices on social media, reminding the public of the dangers of swimming in the canal, particularly as we are almost at the start of the school holiday. And just to add to that, there is going to be one of our press releases going out tomorrow. I was very fortunate last week to see that we have local water safety experts down at the quay, where they're raising awareness of Exeter Quayside ahead of World Drowning Prevention Day, which is this Saturday. And so we actually had the Lifeboat Association there, as well as the Devon and Somerset Fire Service, and they were running these events of doing rescue. So it was very, very visually stimulating, and I think they've got some footage to put up on various websites. It comes as school breaks up for summer holidays and temperatures remain high, tempting many youngsters to take the plunge. So we have the representatives from the RNLI and Devon and Somerset Fire Rescue, and they were sharing vital water safety advice, demonstrating how to respond if someone gets into difficulty in the water. And the quayside restaurants and businesses were also given expert training on how to throw lines into the water to help someone struggling if they need to. So look out for all that information, and also our waterways team are looking at various posters that we might be able to use that the RNLI are currently providing, all about floating to daylight. So it's, I think I'm very pleased with the actions and activities that are currently being carried out to help people survive falling into water or even jumping into it. Thank you.
Councillor Cookson, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. Will the portfolio holder agree that a safe and appropriate place to cool off during the summer would be at a fantastic asset I have in Topsham Road, which is Topsham Pool?
I think I agree.
Thank you. I now move to Councillor Chelvanighan for your question, please.
I'll stay seated for clarity. In the light of the third heat wave we've experienced this summer, what is in place to protect outdoor workers such as refuse collectors, street cleaners, parking attendants and others during peak heat wave conditions? And will working out to be adjusted and appropriate PPE, especially lightweight and light coloured clothing, be provided, as well as undertaking regular heat risk assessments?
Peter?
Yes, thank you. The council takes the welfare of outdoor workers seriously, and services put proportionate controls in place during hot weather. And I would point out that discussions are held with individual members of staff, the staff, and their trade unions on all these matters. These include monitoring weather alerts, providing water and sunscreen where appropriate, encouraging rest breaks, access to shade or cooler areas where available, supervisor welfare checks, and clear arrangements for staff to raise concerns if they feel unwell. Working arrangements are kept under view and, as I said, discussed with their trade unions and the workers themselves, and where operationally possible, managers may adjust duties. To prioritise essential work, avoid the most strenuous activity during the hardest part of the day, or temporarily suspend some activity. As some frontline services must continue, this is managed locally rather than a single blanket approach. PPE and other clothing are considered through risk assessment. Lightweight clothing is provided where suitable, but some roles require protective clothing to manage other safety risks. So controls such as hydration, breaks, cooler rest areas remain important. The council will continue to review arrangements in line with the weather conditions and the relevant health and safety executive guidance.
Councillor, do you have a supplementary question? No, would you like to ask your second question? Thank you.
Thank you. Does local policy require heat safety standards for council workers and commission services?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There is no single local policy setting a fixed heat threshold or standard for all council and commissions and services. However, the council's health and safety arrangements require services to assess and manage risks to staff, including heat as a workplace hazard. This reflects the health and safety executive guidance that, where there is no legal maximum workplace temperature, employers must assess and manage risks from extreme heat. Controls may include hydration, shade, rest breaks, welfare checks, suitable PPE, and changes to how or when work is carried out or practiced. The council is sharing updated guidance with managers and developing hot weather risk assessment material. Commission services are expected to meet their own health and safety duties and manage heat-related risks appropriately.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question? No. Thank you. I now move to Councillor Reid for your question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The recent heat waves in Exeter and across the UK provide yet more evidence that the climate crisis has arrived. According to publicly available University of Exeter climatological data, at 22 minutes past 3 on the 24th of June, Exeter's all-time temperature record was broken at 35.8 degrees. Personally speaking, I can't remember the last time we saw any meaningful rain in this city. For humans, we have heard that heat waves in 2026 have already caused more than 2,700 deaths in England and Wales. This is critical for our city. Alongside this, and what is less reported, is the impact of these heat waves on biodiversity. Let's be clear, humanity cannot sustain itself without vital ecosystem services provided by nature. I acknowledge this council's plans to be accredited by the Nature Cities Accreditation Programme. Exeter City Council was also a statutory consultee for Devon's local nature recovery strategy. The Nature Cities accreditation would be a good step in the right direction, but the foundation level being applied for does not initially deliver many concrete outcomes for nature. Given recent developments around these heat waves, what securities can this council provide to ensure the necessary attention and investment can be forthcoming to make Exeter a city where nature can thrive? Thank you.
Peter?
Lord Mayor, as part of the accreditation, the council will work with partners to create a plan that outlines how we will strategically develop and manage green and blue infrastructure to deliver environmental, social and economic benefits. This will include how we can improve quality of life for residents, address the challenges like climate change, biodiversity loss and public health. The officer responsible for citywide net zero will be preparing a briefing note for members, and that will contain more information.
Councillor, do you have a supplementary question based on the answer you have given?
I do, thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to reading that briefing note for members. Now, this council doesn't have very long left. By the 1st of April 2028, we will no longer be a council. I'm just wondering, from the leader's perspective, what sort of legacy can we expect in terms of protecting nature in Exeter so that generations to come will look back on this council and think that we've been a success?
Romero, that's an additional question. I will say that this council can look forward to a bright future, I believe, going forward, and we will address these issues, as I said in my earlier answer. We are committed to mitigating the effects of climate. We're all suffering, not least this evening with all of you. Thank you.
And our final question is from Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much for that. So this evening we've talked about the fact that we've achieved local government reorganisation outcome that we've hoped for. Does the leader agree with me that the cost of local government reorganisation across Devon, Plymouth and Torbay should be covered by government?
Leader?
Thank you. LGR across Devon, Plymouth and Torbay is a government-led process, and it should not be left to local taxpayers or who are already stretched council services to carry out the full burden of implementation costs. Government has announced transitional support, including capacity funding and funding for each new unitary council, and that is welcome. However, we will continue to make the case that the full costs of a safe and effective transition should be properly recognised and funded. Our priority is to protect frontline services, maintain financial discipline, and ensure that the new arrangements deliver long-term benefits for residents rather than simply shifting short-term costs onto local councils.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor, based on the answer given?
Thank you very much. I welcome your response, which has shifted a bit from when I previously asked the questions. And I would be grateful if you could share how much you'll be asking the government for in terms of making the case that it should be funded by government.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think shifted is not the fairest way to describe it, because it's all right. This is an ongoing process, and let's be honest, there was the £63 million, our share of that. There's the £900,000 which will go to the new unitary council. I'm firmly believing that there will be further announcements throughout all the process. You were at the Oversight Board meeting last night. Not that that was an exclusive club last night. We will be dispersing this all to all members of the council. It went through some of the costs that we're looking at, how it will be done. It's already in the book. If you remember on the transition costs, that a lot of people now think this is all a waste of money. We shouldn't be doing it. It's all in the book about how we plan to recover this cost over an acceptable period of time. So I firmly believe we're now holding a problem. It gives us more argument that when I have meetings and we, the Chief Executive, have meetings to argue for it through our MP and through other operators in the Local Government Association on all of this, because I will be saying, Lord Mayor, that government want this to happen. We want it to happen, but they have to help us, if not cover the costs.
Thank you. That is the last of our questions. Please indulge me for 10 seconds more before I close the meeting. Just to say that in relation to members' wellbeing and that of officers, although I'm sure this heat wave will be over by the time of our next meeting, it is of my opinion that quality debate beyond 3 hours at the end of a long day, when most members in this council have already done a full day's work, is not something that we want to extend. Officers as well have also been working all day and have other things in the evenings, as most of us do. And therefore, can I ask members to consider moving forward those points they want to raise and the importance of those, so that I don't have to look to how those timings can be shortened by other means so that we can remain focused, because I can tell from all of your eyes right now, if we did go on any longer, there wouldn't be any quality debate happening. So I leave you with that and say I now formally close the meeting. Members, thank you very much.